Welcome everyone to the Village of Buchanan Board of Trustees special meeting and workshop of Tuesday, April 27th, 2021. This meeting is being conducted in accordance with Executive Order 202.1. And also you will be able to see us on Facebook Live. And if you have any, you can also call in questions or comments to 914-737-1034. And Cindy will be answering the phones this evening. So thank you, Cindy.
Yeah.
So first we start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everyone. Okay, so this evening we are going to do, we're going to be opening up the public hearing for our 2021-2022 budget. So on a motion to open the public hearing of the 2021-2022 Village of Buchanan tentative budget.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so Marcus has done two presentations. We've had the opportunity to ask questions. We've had the opportunity to go in to speak to Marcus if we had any further detailed questions. What comments or what discussion would the board like to have about the budget?
Well, one thing, some of the comments and questions I had last month, I wanted to just clarify something with Rich for trustee function. Last month when we were discussing this, you said that we had hired this labor attorney for the last PBA contract because we were having an impasse. Did I understand that right?
Sean, I think what Marcus said that we wanted to discuss that. I have no problem talking about it, but he said that it may be better for a special session, executive session, because it's a.
No, I don't think it requires an executive session. The answers that Marcus gave me said just goes back to August of 2018 for the labor attorney. Right. However, the printout shows that we've been paying this labor attorney since 2016. And Marcus, you had told me that for the contract negotiations, we had spent $34,900 for the last PBA contract.
Yeah, over the last 2.5 years, yes.
Yeah, well, from the time he was hired, we've spent $127,800, and we've been using him since 2016 continuously for many things. I think that's outside of what the purview of what his original intent was. We in the village, we only have 2,500 residents and probably about 15 full-time employees, and we have 3 attorneys working for us. We have a prosecutor, we have Stephanie, and now we have a labor attorney. I think that's not needed. I think it's a waste.
Okay, Sean, because we are going into negotiations pretty soon, so I would like you to be on the negotiations so we can eliminate some of the money out of there if you'd like. And also, if we end up going into any type of litigation where we can't resolve it, I'd like you to represent the village also.
Not a problem.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I really would appreciate that, because then we can, if you want, we'll take some of the salary of the labor attorney out of there. But also remember, we did have an issue with one of our employees, and that was not a good situation, and we used the labor attorney for that.
I understand that. However, just in the last month, he has been billing us for things that Stephanie always did for us when I was in office. And I know when I went down and looked at the bills the other day, I know Rich came in right after me, and I was just wondering if anybody had any other questions about what he's billing us for.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that there's the way I look upon it is there are some things possibly that we might not have, I would agree with you that we might not have gone to the labor attorney for a particular thing. And sometimes it's difficult to know when it crosses over the line, but when you need basically, professional help in a particular area. So some of the things you say that I can understand where you're coming from on that. I guess my best example of that was when I negotiated the labor with the Teamsters. It was more of what you had said before, more back and forth thing. But the individual who represents the PBA, I don't. Some people would say he's a fantastic attorney. Some people would just say he's a real hardball player. And it's kind of like going from the minors to the majors. I will have to say that. And when you're over your head, you got to realize when you're over your head, and that's when you need the professional help. So I mean, we could, everything you're talking about. I'm sure we could go down incident by incident by incident. But what was also brought up to me over the time was that sometimes, since you're such a small village and everything, having an attorney, the labor attorney, do some of these things, you're kept out of the minutia crap, and because you have to have a relationship with everybody who works there, since it's such a small village. So I see your point, but I also see the other point.
No, I can agree with you on a lot of those aspects. However, just in the last month, he billed us to review an employee handbook. He billed us to review a pandemic plan.
Mm-hmm.
He billed us multiple times to review the police chief's contract.
Mm-hmm.
He billed us for reviewing out-of-title laborers plowing snow.
Mm-hmm.
That's a waste. Stephanie can handle all of those things. And when you have so many hands in the pot, just think of a population, like I said, of 2,500 with 3 attorneys. Just think how many attorneys the city of Peachtree would have with 25,000. They need 30 attorneys. The town of Cortland would need 40. Whenever you have so many people with so much authority over minute things, nobody's ever going to be on the same page. You're not going to have a unified front. You're not going to have a unified policy. I don't think a labor attorney would be required to review a pandemic plan, or these things shouldn't even be. Maybe I could ask the mayor, does he have an actual employment contract, or is he hired at will?
We had the original labor agreement with him. But what I'd like to ask, since we're saying Stephanie can do all these things, our village attorney, Stephanie, has been very busy with a lot of other things because there's a lot of things going on. And Stephanie, so you know, was very instrumental in getting this, the MOU that we're going to be discussing tonight, plus the planning board issues, plus the zoning board issues. So Stephanie, is there anything here that this labor attorney that we've hired, are there any of those subjects that you feel that you would be able to handle or take over from the labor attorney, or would you take over all those items? Because you're the one that knows what's on your plate.
That's a loaded question. It would depend on what comes through. There have definitely been times when, like the pandemic agreement or others, which I don't even look at, they're just not sent my way because we have a labor attorney. So I think more to the point would be, maybe run it by me first before we go to Craig, right? Mm-hmm. Over the last few years, I think Marcus does that mainly because I am spending so much time on every other thing, and it's really been busy. I mean, the amount of time I'm on the phone with Entergy and Holtec and Dan Marzell and the special counsel, and now our appraiser that we hired out of Maine or wherever they are, New Hampshire, and the hours that are put in are a lot. The one thing I would not want to do is to have to go to arbitration on a labor issue. And that's because I'm not well versed in that. I'm not a player in that field. I don't know the judges, the administrators, the law judges. And I think Craig has the backup. I mean, he's in a huge firm. Everybody knows somebody. And I hate to say it, but that matters.
Mm-hmm.
When I go to Westchester County, I know the judges, I know the clerks. And so I'm on a better playing field, which is unfortunate to say, than somebody who's coming down from Albany to appear in Westchester Supreme. That's just the way it is. So I think it's both ways. I think that perhaps some of the stuff that Craig is doing should be passed to me first, and I'll let Marcus or the board know, hey, I'm over my head and I'm swamped. If you need this in the next 12 hours, it's not happening. That kind of thing. So that's how I'm seeing it.
Okay.
So,
thank you, Steph.
There again, do we have a labor contract with him that if we don't budget for him this year and make him an at-will employee for the types of things that Stephanie just spoke about, will we be breaking any agreements that we have held previously with him?
No, I don't think so. So
I don't know. Do we have an agreement with him, like a written contract or something?
I think, Cindy, I don't know if you can find it, but I think we had some kind of hourly, it was a hourly agreement. It wasn't any kind of retainer. So if we just pay him on an hourly basis. That's what I remember seeing some time ago.
Yeah, I agree, Marcus. That's what we didn't have him like, it was an hourly thing. And so it does come down to like we've been discussing as to when do you bring them in and when do you not bring them in. And right. I agree with Stephanie. You can only really go by incident and to the severity of the situation and to how far you think you could go into the labor law and still be confident that you were serving the village the right way before you would want to, get a professional. The same thing would be as with an engineer. If you're going out looking at, something that involves the streets or drainage or these things, you're at some point, you can visually see things, but at other points, you got to ask an engineer, well, should we do A first or B or C, something along that line.
Well, I agree with you totally, but I really think that Stephanie should be the one that has a say-so on whether we go to the labor attorney, whether she can handle it or not, just for continuity of policy. She's always been able to speak with the elected officials as well as the employees, as well as the unions. So I think it would be important for her to do that. We had written the original employee handbook back in 2011 or 2012 without having to have an outside person. The MOUs you're talking about right now for the cleanup of Lens Cove, we had negotiated that with the Teamsters too. We didn't need to have an outside person, try and negotiate something. Who knows? Maybe they're going to ruffle feathers the wrong way, So I really, and in the budget, I didn't see a line item for him to be budgeted to $40-some thousand. The average is around $40,000 a year. If you go for the last 5 years at 120-something thousand, it's actually around 30,000. And there wasn't a line in there.
Yeah, there's a line. Just to let you know, it's under 1420, 400 other expenses.
Okay, that's under other contractual, and he's budgeted for 45,000 this year. Then
that's correct.
So then, where is the prosecutor budgeted for?
There's 10,000 in that. There's 10,000. That's in.
Oh, it's in the contractual part too.
Yes, that's correct.
Perfect.
So the only thing I want to ask is, we're on this topic. The police contract expires as of May 31st. Yep. Just want to know, is that something that is going to be handled in-house, or Craig is totally out of it? Because if we do go to mediation arbitration, if he comes in later on, whatever is talked about during the initial part of negotiations is what's going to be used to go to mediation or arbitration. So it's important to determine who's going to run that process.
Well, the mayor just put me in charge of that. Am I correct?
Yes,
okay.
Sean, I would really like you to do that. So what are we talking about then? So we have that money budgeted in there. So if we're not needing that
I would like to knock that budget down to $25,000.
So that's 20,000. Okay.
What do you want to knock it to 20,000 or 25? I'm sorry.
Let's take, it's 45,000 right now. So let's make that line $25,000.
So down 20. What's the rest of the board feel about that? If Sean is going to do the negotiations?
Well, I think that if there's since we're not contractually obligated to Craig, I guess it's okay. But the problem is that I think that the intentions of our village is that we're not going to be able to pay much for anything for several years, just based upon the money coming in. And for instance, the police department he's very good at his job. And I think anybody who is a layperson to that is going to get knocked around, and who will pay will be the village.
Oh, I appreciate that, Rich, and I kind of agree with you. I wouldn't mind leaving that there as long as Stephanie is consulted before any work is sent to this labor attorney.
Yep.
We can leave it at the original because I know you have concerns about it. I did negotiating or help with negotiations with my contract, but that wasn't with being a PBA. So if you would feel more comfortable leaving that money there, that I don't have a problem with that, but it's the extra costs that are being expended by this labor attorney that I don't think is required.
Well, I think you could just resolve this by just saying what Stephanie said is that let her take a look at things, or give Marcus could call her and then see where, we don't particularly need the Craig to come in. So it's a call by every incident is individual, and it's a call to, and maybe Stephanie be better made. And as far as how much we keep in there, I kind of like up in the air with, because I don't, it could go very badly. My overall guess is that the police contract is going to be very tough, and it's going to probably wind up in mediation first and then in arbitration. And from what my experience is that the individual that the police department has, it has very close ties with all the mediators. And I won't go any further. I'll leave that to your imagination.
Okay.
Oh, so it's okay. So we're gonna leave the number as it is.
The way it is, and Marcus,
Okay.
if you could just send
Absolutely.
all the work you've been sending to him to Stephanie, unless there's something that's immediate, within
Yep.
hours, like she said.
No problem whatsoever.
Okay. One of the other questions I had last month was about repayment of the bonds. I see that there's only an increase in the bond debt service of $7,000 or $8,000. Now, over the last 2 years, you borrowed with the fire truck around over $1 million, and around $1.2 million, I would say. So how are we paying for this? You have to budget to repay all the cash. And I think on the sewer plant, you're only repaying back the minimum of the interest. Am I mistaken?
We have a little bit of principal on the $1 million for the sewer treatment plant. We got some principal payment in there and interest. On this fire truck, where I'm recommending we skip the first year's principal, and then that way for next year's payment, we can determine as part of the capital project review that we're going to have a workshop on, is then the board can make determination if there's any additional capital projects that we can lump together into one big bond before the fire truck is due, which will be next year's payment.
Well, Nick, when we authorized this payment, you said we were already $50,000 budgeted for it, so we should be able to put at least $25,000 for interest and principal down, and put another $25,000 back into the capital replacement.
Yeah, I think the estimate. Well, you're referring to the $50,000 a year that we put into the fire department's vehicle replacement fund, and our estimate was that would more than cover the annual payment. I thought the estimate was that with principal and interest, we'd be looking at around $40,000, and that only about $10,000 would be left to go into the vehicle replacement fund.
So why aren't we doing that now? Why isn't this budgeted that way now as the way it was built?
Because I think Marcus just explained that we have other capital projects to do. And what he was hoping, and correct me if I'm wrong, Marcus, what he was hoping to do is to put everything into one
Bond issue.
bond.
Okay, so the $50,000 budgeted right now for the vehicle replacement fund, the intent now is to use that for other capital improvements?
No. That money will go into the reserve account, which the village board has full control over. And then
the vehicle replacement fund, you mean?
Correct. The vehicle replacement fund, that $50,000 that was budgeted will go into that account. And then we go over the capital projects. Then the village board can determine you want to pay down this additional more against the fire truck when it's due next year, or we can keep that money in there and then put more into the bond issue. So that's the discussion process regarding the overall capital project.
Question, Marcus, we do have an interest-only payment for the current year, though, correct?
That'll be next. That's interest is over the budget.
And
It's not for this for this tentative budget 21-22?
Yes. That's a little bit of interest payment on that.
What would that interest payment be? Do we know?
I gotta put on my spreadsheet. Hold on a second.
Because that 50,000 would go into the vehicle replacement fund minus that interest only payment, I assume.
That's correct. Hold on. I gotta go into my,
But remember that money was also in there too. Remember we had released some of that money for a repair a couple of years ago too.
Yeah, well, that's not part of the current formula that we're talking about, is it?
No, but I'm just saying that $50,000,
Yes.
that's part of that.
Yes.
Marcus, I have only $1,500 interest.
there you go. Perfect. Yes.
So
we
that
should-
would be the payment, and then 35 would go into the vehicle replacement fund. But it's coming
Correct.
out of that 50, I assume?
Correct. So, what I'm trying to do is give the board flexibility in regards to how much, because we got DPW requests, we got police requests for capital projects. So the idea is to give you the flexibility of if do you want to do future bonds,
Consolidating
all the
items,
debt,
yes.
and because the more you go out to debt for, I hate to say this, the better interest rate you actually receive, depending on what the priorities are of the village board at that point.
When do we expect to have this,
Sometime in May, early June,
Soon,
depending on
okay.
what the workshops are, what they work out to be.
okay,
And the idea is we're going to have George Palmer will be there to talk about the sewer treatment plant, the paving projects. We have all the department heads there to discuss their capital needs. DPW is looking for a substantial truck replacement as well. And then you as a board can determine what do we need to do, and I can calculate the principal interest payments. And then we can take out the money out of the fire reserve because the fire department also has additional capital project requests that the board needs to look at as well.
All right, so we got a lot of discussions to do about capital projects, and then the board
Okay.
can decide what they feel is necessary and what's important.
And the money will be there out of that reserve account. Exactly.
All right.
Also, I didn't see any money in there for any of the police reform committee's recommendations, the body cameras, the data retrieval systems and stuff.
That'll be, Sean, that'll be part of the capital project discussion. We have that as part of the capital project as well. But those are substantial expenses.
So all these capital discussions would come from next year's budget then?
Yes, because that's when the debt service will be due. Because when you take out dirt, the first payment isn't until a year later.
Well, we can leave bands open for 3 to 5 years, right?
Correct. But you got to pay, but we got to budget the interest payments, which will be a year from now. Correct.
Okay. And I think we actually should increase the building maintenance funds. It'd be the A1620 400 funds. Going over the bills, I see that we're paying outside contractors to do HVAC maintenance at a rate of $100 an hour. One of the last ones was $100 an hour to replace a belt and an air filter, which I would have done it for you for $50. But
All right, next time we'll give you a call.
I wish we have to follow prevailing wage. That's part of the problem too. It's like 40%.
is there a reason why our guys can't change a belt and a filter?
I don't know if they have. I can check with Bob. If they've told me they don't have the expertise to do it, and then so I can check with Bob on that. So that's what I've been told.
To change a fan belt? Okay. Well, we only budgeted $2,000 for it. And if we're going to be paying an outside contract, we have other AC units and other building services, a lot of maintenance.
God, excuse me, what line are you looking at?
I'm looking at A1620 400 A1620.498, which is
Gotcha, I see it. I got you.
page 22.
Yeah, I got it.
Public
you.
buildings,
Got
HVAC
it.
maintenance.
I got it. Thank you.
So if we're billing $100 an hour to do those little things, I think we probably would be able to expend $2,000 easily.
Yeah, Sean. I think Sean. I think regarding the repairs, I think Cindy, correct me if I'm wrong. We put those under the 480, which is repairs. So we got $10,000 in there. The maintenance is any maintenance agreements.
So
Yes,
we
I
have
think you're right.
We have an HVAC maintenance contract.
Which I think we
do.
got. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right,
Yeah, so that's why we have the 10,000 for the repairs, Sean, just like you said.
you got it.
And Sean, just to let you know, one of the other capital project items, we call it HVAC, is we need to talk about the Village Hall boiler system. We got some prices to replace that. We'll be discussing that as well. That's about ready to fail at any time. So for the heating system. So that's part of capital projects too. And I think the air conditioning unit, if I'm not mistaken, Cindy will know, is pretty new, right, Cindy?
Yes, very, very new. Yes. Yeah.
On page 27, under the public safety, I see that there's zero money budgeted for the insurance for the fire department. Is there a different policy that occurred?
Which line item are you looking at? I'm
looking at, I'm under A3410, 400, under insurance, 410. Last year, it budgeted $25,000. This year, it's budgeted zero.
All the insurance was consolidated
correct.
into one. Yes, Marcus can explain.
Okay.
Yes, Sean, what we did was I worked with Cindy on this too, and we combined everything into one insurance program to make it easier. Because Cindy has been breaking up. It was based on estimate numbers. It wasn't really based on any actual calculation of insurance, but we pay one insurance umbrella for the entire village. So that's on the one insurance line right now.
Okay. And I think maybe the last thing I might have is there was an increase of $46,000 to the safety inspection and personal services. What was that increase for?
Yeah, that was for the two part-time for the two part-time building inspectors. That's what that expense was for.
So their title is safety inspection personnel?
That's correct. The building inspectors are considered public safety. Yes.
Okay, that's all the questions that I had.
Thank you, Sean.
Anyone else? Any questions, comments?
No, I like that there's a larger contingency than we normally have because we seem to get nailed by something or other every year, and we need to have a little buffer in the contingency. For not just, for unexpected emergencies, but I think the retirement payouts are budgeted in there.
We possibly have two retirement payments was substantial.
So I think it's a good budget. I have no particular comments. We talked about it at a previous workshop. I'm good to go with this budget.
I'm the same.
I just noticed one more thing on my notes.
Sure.
From the American Rescue Plan that the mayor had sent out, saying we were going to get another 247,000 possibly.
Approximately, yeah.
Yeah, probably. It's all based on some formulas.
Yeah.
I would like to see that because Nick had mentioned a few things about the sewer plant. I know that the inclusion of the Montrose Improvement District has been put on hold or canceled because of the maybe needing more capacity within our sewer plant. And now that there's going to be a new Recovery Act coming out, I don't know if you guys remember back in 2010 or 12, whatever it was, we missed a lot of stimulus money because we couldn't meet the criteria of the grants. We didn't have shovel-ready projects, nor do we have Buy American clauses or estimates within those contracts or estimates. I would like to see some of that money go over. I'm sure it's not budgeted now because it's in anticipation, but in order to take care of the concerns that Nick had raised about the sewer plant infrastructure, we should discuss using this money to get some shovel-ready projects together to maybe build a new tank with new technology, allow the other two tanks to operate because they're within specifications, and be able to take in sewage from other communities, like what was the original plan. Even though the reduction of sewage from Indian Point is going to be substantially lower, the amount of sewage for any future development that everybody's planning may need to increase our capacity. If I remember correctly, we were operating between 250 and 350, or we were licensed for 500,000 a day. So we still had 30% capacity, but I would like to see some shovel-ready projects get put together quickly. Do you have any estimates when this money is going to come?
No, the Treasury Department is still working out the terms. I did a rough estimate per capita Just so we had a rough idea. I believe that's how they're going to be doing that. But in reference to the sewer treatment plant, we've over the years, as a matter of fact, you were on the board at the time, did some Band-Aid issues. And so I'm glad you brought that up. We are going to have a substantial talk about the sewer treatment plant. We're not doing Band-Aids anymore. We're going to do a major overhaul in the sewer treatment plant. I've had the engineer working on that. And I have a good announcement to make within the next couple of months about that. So we will have a new sewer treatment plant. I have been working on that for quite some time.
Well, if you remember, the big issue was CapEx and OpEx and how we're able to build different entities for OpEx and not CapEx.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but the DEC, after we spent after all that money went into just Band-Aid the sewer treatment plant, and the DEC at the time still wanted that we use the new technology. Now we need the new technology. They're not playing anymore. So they have been very good with us. Our sewer treatment plant person over there, Todd Travis, has done a phenomenal job. I mean, he's doing a great job. The other contractor in there. So the plant is running right now optimum, but the DEC is not playing. They want the new technology. They don't want to hear anything. That's what they want. End of story. So we are going to have that discussion in the capital projects. So considering it's going to be about 200, let's be really conservative and say that this money that comes in is 200,000. It has to be used for either COVID related expenses, which fortunately, thank God, we didn't incur a lot of expenses on that, or it has to be used for capital projects. So we can have a discussion on that. I believe it's the second Tuesday of next month that we're going to be talking about capital projects. So think about what capital projects. I mean, we could also put that into the road program too for this year or next year. So, one of two things, but I'm thinking when we do that sewer treatment plant, we just got to go in, do it, settle it once and for all, new technology, get with the program, get up to the speed of what sewer treatment plants are. So, but I'm working on something, and I have been, but I just can't announce it right now.
So the DEC, when it comes to that, the small bubble diffusion was for denitrification. Is denitrification again required now?
They want the new technology. Yes.
Well,
there's different things that they want.
New
So,
technology.
I can go back and forth with you, the denitrification, the extra.
Well, no, I'm just curious as to why. That's all.
Yeah. No.
What the money for?
We went round and round with that with the DEC, and they were just like, we want the new technology. And this is what you have to do. If you want your license, this is what you need to do. So that's what we're going to do. But the plan I have is a good plan. So you'll be happy. Just patient. Be patient.
Okay. If I may, Sean, what to do is I'm going to give the board a list of all potential capital project 5-year plan. Included in there is the engineer's report, the DEC per se, the consent order of what they require us to do, include different options of that as well. And you're right, Sean, then you could decide, what that 200,000, do you want to pay any of that stuff off? And how much you want to pay off, and then the rest of it, then you can decide if how you want to pay for it over term. So that's a overall discussion of the capital projects, and that extra money could be used anywhere the board would like to use it for one-time capital projects.
But I'd really like to I think that's on the schedule for next month. Next month, every Tuesday we have a meeting. So the first Tuesday is the regular board meeting, the second Tuesday, because we need to move on the roads and get that scheduled for this year and whatever capital projects. So maybe by then, maybe in the next couple of weeks, we'll have a clearer picture of what money we're going to get. So maybe, do we want to put it into something else? Do we want to put it into roads? But that's a discussion that we can have, definitely.
And Teresa or Marcus, can you send the board members a schedule? If we're having a meeting every Tuesday next month, can you please send out a schedule of what each meeting is?
Absolutely. Yeah, the first will be infrastructure, Nick. And
the first meeting is our regular meeting, and then we have 3 other Tuesdays.
And then the second Tuesday, yeah.
There's
a lot going on.
Okay.
There's a lot of work that needs to be done this year.
Good. A lot of balls in the air.
There's a lot of balls in the air. But that's good, because when there's a lot of balls in the air, we get a lot of things done.
Somebody got to catch all those balls too, bye.
Okay. All right, any other comments on the budget? Okay, if the board doesn't have anything else right now, I'm going to take it to the public. Is there anyone, Cindy, is there anyone on the phone? Is there anyone that's an attendee that has a question or comment on the budget?
Any attendees, just raise your hand and I can unmute you if anybody wants to say anything.
No phone calls.
Okay.
No, oh, we got a hand raised.
Oh.
Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, Eileen, you're there.
Okay, I just wanted to know what was the final, or what was the final tax that was coming up with this?
It's 18.97%.
18.97?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Just give it a minute. All right. Do you think, I don't want to leave anybody out if they have a comment or a question.
No other hands are raised.
Okay. Cindy would have
We
told
got 9 attendees, which is pretty good.
Good. That's good. So.
We're missing one trustee, aren't we?
Yes.
I'm so sorry. Yes. Anthony Capicotti had called me today. He was going to try to get on the phone and he, was not able to make it this evening. So, but thank you, Nick. I'm sorry. I should have mentioned that at the beginning of the meeting. So not sure if Anthony will be calling in at this point or not, but I just wanted to mention that. Thank you. So I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing for the 2021-2022 Village of Buchanan tentative budget on a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay,
I don't
good.
know who got the first, but if I didn't get the first, I'll be the second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Good, thank you. So I am now going to make a motion to adopt the 2021-2022 budget and water rates. And once again, the budget increase will be 18.97. The water increase will be 4.70. And with the water increase, of course, that includes what's passed along we get water from 2 sources. We get water from the city of Peekskill. We also get water from the Montrose Improvement District. So they have increases. We have to pass them along to the consumer. On a motion to adopt the 2021-2022 Village of Buchanan budget and water rates.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. The next thing we have is a really good thing. We're going to be considering a resolution ratifying the mayor's execution of the memorandum of understanding, the agreement with the Nuclear Asset Management Company, NAMCO, and Holtec Decommissioning International, LLC, and ratifying the mayor's execution of the joint proposal, withdrawing all court challenges with respect to corporate, to the license transfer. So what I want to first say is this has been a long time coming. This didn't happen in 2 weeks. This didn't happen a month. This didn't happen in 2 months. Let's go back to January 2017, as they say, that fateful day, when the announcement was made that Entergy would be closing, ceasing operations. So let's remember this. There were 3 men in a room. There was the governor, there was Riverkeeper, and there was Entergy. And the Village of Buchanan was not there. Why? Because we were not an intervener. So at that point, after we breathed, we took a breath and figured out where we needed to go. We made a decision that going forward, if there was ever another opportunity to be an intervener, we were going to be an intervener because the Village of Buchanan needed a seat at the table. The Village of Buchanan needed to have a say. There was no one there talking for the Village of Buchanan. So I'm really happy to announce that we have come to some type of an agreement. I know my administration got accused of losing our direction. We got accused of not thinking out of the box. We got criticized for spending $27,000. It will be more than that. So everyone knows it will be more than $27,000 to become an intervener. And I know, Sean, you had said that your thoughts were that it was a waste of money for a small village, but it was important for us to have a seat at the table. So what we're getting from that is next year, we're getting $1.2 million. It's for 1 year, the $1.2 million, but it gives us some certainty with our next budget, our next financial budget. So it gives us some financial certainty. The other thing that was very, very important in there's a provision related to local roads. So when the decommissioning is over, or if there's any issues, so there's provisions in there for if there's roads that are damaged because of the decommissioning, the heavy trucks, et cetera, there's a provision in there for that. And one of the more important things, I think, is the expedited release of portions of the property. I have several times had conversations with Holtec officials in Village Hall, and I made it very clear to them that it was important for our survival that some of those portions could be released, and they could also, so that we could develop, not us develop, but, that a developer could develop, so it would help our tax base. So I believe, we have a good working relationship. They understand what the village needs. They understand where we need to go with this. So they have been open to that. So very appreciative. I've had a good working relationship with Entergy. They've been very decent to work with, and they have been good to the village. So I thank them. But I'd really I'm a team player. I'm not somebody that's me. So I also want to mention Stephanie Porteous. Stephanie has worked very hard on this. She was our liaison between us and the legal firm that we hired. And Stephanie ensured that the things that we wanted in there, like the roads, about the release of portions of property, she made sure that happened. She was our liaison. She was our mouth. So Stephanie, I know a lot of work went in. I know it wasn't easy. I know it was, you have gone above and beyond, and you've just done so much work through this challenging time for us. This has not been easy. I know this is like stuff, not normal business. It's not business as usual. So I appreciate all the hard work that you've done. Marcus, of course, you have been great. You're always there. If we need you 24/7, you're there. So it's this team of people that is doing these good things and made these things happen. Rich, Nick, I appreciate your patience. It's been tough. I mean, we have much more work to do. We have many more things to accomplish. There's things that have been worked on that we're still going to pursue. I have to thank trustees Pasquale and trustee Jackson, who were with us since the beginning of 2017 announcement. So you have to think out of the box. We thought out of the box. So think about this. Thinking out of the box, who would have ever thought that we could get legislation passed that would allow us to tax spent fuel? And I know, Sean, you were one of the people that said that'll never happen. Well,
I never said that, by the way, and stop putting words in my mouth.
Good. No, I'm glad
I said that the legislation should have included a way to have a dollar value associated with it, because we're not collecting any tax revenue. Maybe
we're working on that, Sean.
Maybe it will in the future. Who knows? But you're not doing it today.
Sean, you'll be privy to what we're doing. It's negotiation. So you will be privy to that.
Absolutely.
So there's other states that are adopting this legislation. So I'm not saying it's easy. We're first in the nation. We're on the forefront of this. So we're working with this other company to get to a situation, to get to a resolution of that. So that's good. That was a positive thing.
Absolutely. But I'd like to see how any documentation or anything that you could show that I said you'll never be able to pass legislation to tax the fuel.
I guess it was mutual.
I know that's not correct, because I was on the planning board.
I'm glad you're able to explain that. This is perfect. I'm glad so we want to stay positive. We want to be open to new opportunities. We don't want to be negative Nellies, and we want to pursue things. We didn't have our head in the sand, that is for sure, because you're going to see more good things coming along that we've been working on. And you know, I did want to ask you a question though, Sean. What did you mean by biting the bullet? I know that, yeah, what did you mean that the village has to bite the bullet? That was actually in print.
Yeah.
I just wasn't understanding what biting the bullet was.
Because part of the intervener was that people were trying to fight the license transfer. You have to realize that the license was going to be transferred and we shouldn't expend funds to fight the transfer of the license. That's what I meant by bite the bullet. The plant is going to close.
It was a negotiation
transfer.
tactic.
You have to live with it and understand that that's what's going to happen. That's what the comment bite the bullet meant.
We never thought that we could fight the transfer. It was a negotiation tactic.
Yeah,
it was our way of getting a seat at the table, and we indeed did. So that's what that was all about. You're correct. I can't fight City Hall, but can we get a seat at the table so we can have a say in what's going on?
Did we win when we went to court for that intervener? Did we win?
We did not win.
Okay.
The first round. Okay, so we jumped back in, and that's when there were negotiations going on at that time.
So did you win the second time? Did any court say that you?
There was no second round because then, Sean, we were at the table to negotiate. If we weren't at the table, we wouldn't have gotten these things. So it was a negotiation tactic. It worked, and the village won. And that's all this is about. It's not about politics. It's not about gotcha. It's nothing like that. It's what's in the best interest in the village.
Absolutely.
How can the village win? So this.
Nor was it about blocking the transfer.
Listen.
And then what I have to laugh too, I'm not laughing. I think it's sad. There's a group of people in the village that they don't care. They don't care if their taxes get raised. So to them, this is no big deal. This is nothing because they don't care if the taxes get raised. They have their own reasons for it that I don't agree with. But you know what? There's a lot of people in the village that need this help. We need to try something. We can't just put our head in the sand and say, oh my gosh, we're losing half of our revenue and not do anything.
This seems more like a mayor's report instead of a
well, thank you, Sean, but I'm going to read into this yet. Thank you. But I figured this was an opportunity to discuss this. But thank you for mentioning.
Listen, I'd be more than happy to have an open debate on TV when we're in public anytime. That's okay.
I'm sure you would. But this,
I'm satisfied with my ability to
be happy for the village. Sean, be happy for the village what happened.
Listen, I'm always happy for the village.
We worked hard. We all worked very hard. And you're going to be on this board too, so you're going to work hard too, and there's going to be wins for you too.
I never said
I would. It's about the village, Sean. It's about the village. That's all this is, and that's all it should ever be.
Just to make it clear, you did lose that first lawsuit where you spent the 27th. Okay,
yes,
just want to make sure.
I'm not going to lie about that. Yes, we did. But again, it was a quick tactic. Did we have a seat at the table, Sean? That's the bottom line. Did we have a seat at the table?
One of the comments you made was when Entergy made the decision to close the plant, there was 3 people in the room. What kind of intervener status was available at the time?
None. When you weren't told about it.
Yeah.
Nobody knew about it. That's the problem, Sean.
We
weren't told about it. And what the mayor is saying now is that because of what happened in 2017, we had to let them know we are serious. That's why we wanted that seat there, because we were screwed in 2017. Nobody knew about it till the next morning reported in the newspaper, unless some of the people over in Entergy and some of the employees in Entergy knew about it.
Well, you know,
it's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. And I would take that your comments as being more sincere if you would have been at the FERC hearings where I testified against the pipeline, which lowered the gas prices, which showed that plants would close, because when you move to a one fuel economy, you have bad electric prices. So when you're trying to make money at $20 a megawatt, you can't do it when the gas is only $18 a megawatt.
Absolutely.
Also, if one of you guys would have been at some of the DEC hearings where I testified trying to fight the wedge wire, you weren't standing next to me at that time, Mayor. When I was begging you guys to come down to the AEC hearings,
We tried to fight the pipeline. Supervisor Puglisi, all the people in the area, all the elected officials. That was, we didn't get the support from the federal government. We tried.
you weren't there to testify. My record is in the testimony.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Standing on a podium is one thing. Actually putting your voice in the record, giving facts to the people there, that has a little more impact than waving a sign, I'm sorry to say.
I put it in the record. I was never asked, Sean. So don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. I was never asked to go to any DEC thing.
Yeah.
When you were the mayor, no.
Public hearings were public hearings.
Okay.
You didn't ask. You
All right. So
basically
Listen,
you
I asked
kept a
you
lot
guys
of
to go down
stuff
to
to
the
yourself,
AEC
Sean.
Listen,
okay, Sean. You told me that this was a mayor report. You're doing the
so now when I bring up facts that you don't want to hear, you stop the
what
discussion.
facts? Okay, you testified. That has nothing to do with this MOU, Sean.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with the MOU. Okay, thank you. That's
But
all.
I'm trying to keep the thing open. You wouldn't have been in this position to begin with.
Sean, I'm kind of hoping that for the sake of the village, that we can somehow learn to work together so that for the benefit of the village, especially these challenging times, what we're going through. And we're not always going to agree. That's true. That's true. But the gotchas and things like that, that's really counterproductive.
And I was willing to do that too. That's why I wasn't even going to comment on any of these things until you started bringing up a dissertation during passing of a resolution.
Well, this is part of the MOU.
I could bring up a whole ton of things if you want to, but I don't think that's productive. You should be passing resolutions. You should have a question on the resolution and go on.
I wanted to have an explanation.
You decided not to do that. You decided to grandstand. That's fine.
I'm not grandstanding. I was trying to give a background, Sean. I'm trying to give a background before we vote on this.
Absolutely.
I mean, I could read this and then people are, what are we getting? What's the MOU? What does this mean? So I'm sorry if you disagree with me, but I just wanted to give a background. So I guess I should keep my mouth shut and not say anything anymore. Would that make sense?
I'm sure a lot of people in the village would be happy about that as well as if I kept my mouth shut. They'd be happy about that too.
And they'd all be happy. But
I got an idea. I'd like to end this meeting before midnight. How about you all shut up when we go on with the agenda?
Thank you. I appreciate it,
Nick. That's called leadership. The leadership.
I want to talk. Okay. Yeah, I have no leadership, and that's why the village doesn't get grants. They didn't get this MOU done. There's a whole bunch of things that haven't happened good for the village. Okay, Sean. I see where you're going.
Congratulations.
You're being political, and that's what's not needed in the village. So thank you for letting me explain what this MOU is. And thank you. In the past, I have always explained before we voted on things. So that's how I do things. I'm sorry if it offends you.
Doesn't offend me. I prefer parliamentary procedure. That's okay.
Because we have a lot of other work to do for the village this evening. That's why we're here, the work of the village.
Sure.
So the Village of Buchanan resolution ratifying the mayor's execution of the Memorandum of Understanding Agreement with Nuclear Asset Management Company, LLC, NAMCO, and Holtec Decommissioning International, and ratifying the mayor's execution of the joint proposal withdrawing all court challenges with respect to the corporate license transfer. So now I'm going to read the resolution. Whereas on or about June 1st, 2015, the Village of Buchanan and Entergy Nuclear Indian Point 2 LLC and Entergy Nuclear Indian Point 3 LLC, collectively Entergy Corp, entered into a certain pilot payment in lieu of taxes agreement for the Indian Point Energy Center pursuant to real property tax law section 45, Village Local Law number 3 of 2015, and Village Board resolution dated April 6, 2015, the pilot agreement with respect to certain property improvements which make up and are associated with Indian Point 2 and 3, the generation supporting building, the GSB, and the independent spent fuel storage, the ISFC. Whereas Indian Point 2 has permanently shut down on or about April 30th, 2020, and IP3 is scheduled to be permanently shut down on or about April 30th, 2021. Whereas the first amendment to the pilot agreement was approved by the board on June 25th, 2020, which provided for a period of 2 years and continued to exempt this facility from the real property tax assessment rules of the Village of Buchanan. That's what happens when you enter into a pilot, as authorized by Section 485 of the Real Property Tax Law of the State of New York. And whereas Real Property Tax Law Section 485 now allows for a continued pilot agreement even after a nuclear facility is not generating electricity. Whereas in anticipation of the licensee transfer from Entergy Corp and its affiliates to Nuclear Asset Management Company, NAMCO, the parties have participated in negotiations with Holtec Decommissioning International, LLC, Holtec and NAMCO with the understanding that all parties will negotiate in good faith to enter into successor pilot agreements once the license transfer is complete, and which provides in a memorandum of understanding, the MOU.
Yeah.
Among other things, that should the village, Holtec, and NAMCO be unable to enter into an agreement upon successor pilot agreement prior to the expiration date of the current pilot agreement, 5/31/2022, Village will have the option of extending the current pilot agreement, which provides for a payment of $1.2 million for the tax year 2022-2023, or the village may send a bill with its assessment. Whereas the village, along with numerous other parties and jurisdictions, have previously participated in litigation seeking to intervene and challenge the license transfers. Whereas the village, on advice of counsel, has now agreed to withdraw any and all litigation and court challenges with respect to any commission action in the PSC order in case of 19-E-0730, or any action by the NRC with respect to the transfers, including case numbers 21 through 1037, 21-1080, and 21-1084. Currently pending before the DC District Court by way of a joint proposal, and whereas the MOU adequately protect the interest of the village, and whereas the MOU and joint proposal required execution by the mayor under a strict time frame, and whereas the mayor signed both the MOU and the joint proposal on April 14, 2021, and whereas the village board may ratify acts of public officials for acts that could have been authorized in the first place. Now be it therefore resolved that the village board hereby approves the proposed MOU and joint proposal and formally ratifies the mayor's signature on both documents. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately. So, on a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay. Whoops. Let's see, what's next on our agenda here? Here we go. Okay, so next we are going to discuss a motion to waive the fee for the use of the pavilion by the BV school for the purpose of drop-off and pickup regarding their plant sale for the date of May 4th. So I don't know if everybody knows, but we have allowed the BV school to use the property, use the pavilion, so that they would have more space through the pandemic. So the children have been using the pavilion. So this is to authorize a one-time thing on May 4th for people to come there to pick up. It's a pre-sale for a plant sale. So we're allowing them to come just to pick up the plants. There is insurance we do have insurance for the school to use that. On a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
On a question? Okay.
I had spoke to Marcus about the resolutions for a request for village facilities.
Mhm.
That there wasn't a set policy because the Little League didn't get a resolution to use the facilities, and it's become an issue because of charging them money, like as we used to do with soccer, baseball, BV, and this other any other motions. When volunteer organizations wanted to use our facility, we had a resolution and we waived those fees. I was wondering if that policy is only instituted for certain things, or is it constant? Marcus, can you help me out here? When we had this discussion and I also spoke with Nancy, and she said that she didn't take care of the scheduling of our village facilities anymore. Is there a reason why we have a resolution for this use and not a resolution for the Little League?
Sure. The Little League, we actually did discuss it a couple workshops ago, that they wanted to use it because last year was a pandemic. They requested the use of the field, but because of the pandemic, the village board decided not to open up the field. So they did approve the Little League to use it for this year. And there was a fee schedule set up So they did pay for the first season the fees. So the board did discuss it at a previous board meeting. I forgot when it was, Sean. They did discuss it.
Was there a resolution for them to use it this year?
I know we discussed it. I don't know if we actually moved a motion to do that, Sean, but we can look through the minutes. But but there was a discussion at a board meeting. But the discussion of the pavilion, for example, that we discussed, Sean, my discussion with the department heads and Nancy still gets the request for the pavilion. And the only time that in the last couple of years has come to the village board is only if we're going to waive the fee, like this example, or they want to use alcohol. If it's just a birthday party, a wedding, or something like that, as long as they provide insurance, pay the fee, it wouldn't come to the village board. So, of course, if the village board wants to change the policy and have everything come to the board, that's fine with me and the staff. That's the process is done. So the policy has been so far, and the only time it comes to the village board is only if it's a waiver of the fee, alcohol, or with the use of the field, that literally did come and ask for permission. I just sent you the request from the high school as well, that they want to use it. They said they're willing to pay a fee, but again, when the outside groups like that really would come to the board for discussion with the use of the field.
We usually always waive the fees for those types of organizations. I didn't know if the rest of the board members were aware, because usually we only become aware of things through resolutions and talking about the resolutions. Because in the past, like I said, the board members had authorized the waiver of the fee for the town of Cortland soccer, the town of Cortland baseball, town of Cortland football. And for some reason this year, there was no resolution, and they're being charged $50 a game and $25 a practice. And as far as I can tell, they're not receiving any service for it other than cutting the grass.
Okay,
Can I say something?
we can continue this discussion, but I did want to say that next Tuesday night, we are going to have a discussion about it. There are going to be some people from the travel teams that have questions about that. The grass is cut. There is lines that are put in. There is dirt that is put back on the mound. There's different things that are done. But I think, Bob Wheeler will be on next week and we'll be able to have a better conversation about that.
Okay. It just seemed out of the ordinary for me because Marcus had told me we weren't doing it anymore. Okay.
Can I,
that's a policy discussion. We can have a policy discussion at the same time, what the board feels is necessary to do. And then we can go forward with a new policy. And Nick, I'm very sorry.
Yeah, no, I just want to comment. First of all, the pavilion has always been, we've always waived the fee for nonprofits, school groups, things like that, church groups. We've never waived the fee for private individuals using the pavilion. And I think the pavilion policy works fine like that and is separate from the field policy. The field was renovated a good bit about 2 years ago. And the highway department currently has to do the striping. We can negotiate that. That's a union issue. The highway department is doing the striping and there's mowing, and the field is probably getting better maintained if we do it. I know from my experience with the Little League years ago that well-meaning coaches often were out there doing different things, but they didn't necessarily keep the field in the kind of condition that the highway department would. So I don't think we need to charge fees except to recoup what our expenses are. And I think we'll have, like the mayor just said, we could have that discussion next week. But I think the field and the pavilion are two separate issues. But there are reasons, the pavilion is a one-shot deal. People come in and use it once in general, whereas the field is ongoing several times a week. So, there's a little bit of a difference there. Okay. Let's continue that one next week and complete this one now.
Okay. So on a motion to allow the use of the pavilion for purpose of a plant sale on May 4th.
That was already passed. Then we already had a second motion on the use of the...
Did I? I'm sorry. I get so involved in the discussion sometimes. Okay. So that was passed.
Did we vote? No, we didn't vote on that.
We didn't vote on it yet.
It's on a question. That's correct.
Okay. So
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Unanimous. Okay. Consider a motion to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Local 456 to allow a class a class from Hendrick Hudson School to clean up sections of Lents Cove, the waterfront on May 17th or June 1st, which is a rain date. Our union has a position that not even volunteers may clean up any area of the village. So I'm just going to read this here to address the issue. The village and union have entered into an agreement that would allow non-union individuals to work on village property. I'd like to have some cleanups like other communities do. I'd like to have Earth Day and things like that. But the union feels very strongly about this. So for us to allow anybody, a volunteer organization, we have to agree to this agreement. So on a motion.
So moved.
Second. On a question.
Yeah. I think next time we negotiate the Teamster contract, we have to have it in there that we can have community events that like of this sort, even if it's limited to a certain number a year. I think it's absurd because this is not taking away the regular maintenance of the park, which the highway department has to do. These are specific events that create community awareness and community participation. They serve a different purpose, not just the fact that they're going to walk in the water and pick up a tire. It's something to me that should be ongoing, and we should have some kind of ongoing agreement and not have to go crazy every time somebody wants to do an Earth Day thing or a school group like this. These are wonderful events, and without taking away the regular maintenance of the Teamsters, I think we should have something in the next contract that allows for maybe, certain specific types of things, maybe limited to a certain number. We're not going to send school kids out there every Friday to clean up the park. They're going to come once a year. So
I agree with you. You know what's not even covered, because some communities have done this now with the problem with invasive species of plants.
Yeah. These are things that the highway department would not be addressing.
No contract would answer to this. There's people who bring in, I saw it from upstate New York, goats and or sheep that will eat the invasive species. It's the easiest way, especially in areas like in Lent Cove, where there's a lot of area you can't even get into because of brush and everything. So I always thought that, and the other thing with that is that we seem to be the only community that wasn't allowed to have an Earth Day.
That's right.
Certainly every other community in Westchester is unionized, and I support the union 100%, but it seems crazy.
Yep.
Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah.
And that's a good point. The county, other villages, the town, all have, whether it's walking along the roads and picking up garbage or cleaning up parks, all sorts of volunteer cleanup days, mostly around Earth Day or, in the spring. And they all have unions. So, let's sort that one out.
Good.
Yeah.
We'll work it out. Okay. So all in favor?
Vote on that? No, we didn't. Did we?
I was a motion second and then on a question.
The mayor's right. Unless there's other questions, we're on to the vote.
Okay. Correct. Okay. Everyone unanimous? Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Okay. So I'd like to make a motion now to close the special meeting.
So moved.
Oh, wait, hold on, Teresa, you got a couple other items there.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, we did the Lents Cove, the cleanup.
What other items, Mark?
Just a quick discussion on the cannabis.
Oh, you want to do that over there?
I don't know if you want to skip it. That's fine.
That was under workshop.
That's part
Oh,
of the
sorry.
workshop.
That's right. I'm sorry. That's right. Workshop. That's right. Sorry.
Hey, I'm big enough to say when I make a mistake, I can.
That's fine. Thank you.
So motion to close the special meeting and go into the workshop.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So here we are into the workshop. So one of our discussions is on the building department fees, and do we have the building department here with us this evening?
Yeah, Peter, unmute and turn your video, Peter, if you're on, and Brian. I know I see Peter on the screen.
Okay, good.
I think he's coming. Yeah, Peter, turn on. Do you want to turn your video? No.
Hold on, muting, trying. Come on.
Okay, we can hear you at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
Peter, you just muted yourself again. There you go.
Okay.
Keeps going, all right.
I can see
You got it. There we are.
Here we
I
are.
have a question on it right away on the electrical permit and the plumbing permits. Is this, pardon my ignorance here, you guys are the professionals of this. Does this mean if you would get an electrician in just to fix a plug in your house or install a fan in a room, does you have to have a permit for that?
Yes.
Okay, and the same thing with a plumber who's coming in to fix like a clogged pipe.
Well, that's not necessarily a plumber. It could be a drain person. He's not a licensed plumber. A plumber is for plumbing work, replacing a sink, faucet, fixtures, drain, waste, and vent, actual fixtures.
Let me see if I got what you're saying correctly. If I got it correctly, you're talking about people who are licensed. Is that
Yes.
it? Okay, so like a handyman doing something for an older person in a house. Is that
Unless you're a licensed professional electrician or plumber, you're not supposed to handle any of those items. The handyman is not supposed to do that legally.
okay? All right, I got you. Okay.
Well, wait a minute. The average handy homeowner, if a light switch breaks, is going to change the switch.
That's maintenance, but he's still not supposed to do it.
But he can do it.
He could do it.
Okay. That's a bit over the top. That's a bit over the top to me, but let's go on.
Actually, Nick, on what you're just saying, what's the danger with that is if you have a fire,
Yep.
and the fire inspector comes in and finds anything, the insurance company is going to run after and say, was it an electrician who did this or somebody else? And if somebody else, they're going to say, we're not covering you.
That's the problem. One of the problems.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry, Teresa. I just want to show. I think Brian and Peter should explain that. I know Nick seems.
Sure, yeah.
Nick seems. I think that's an important thing. I think Peter and Brian should explain that a little bit more because I know we've had situations where insurance companies have denied claims because of that. So, Peter, why don't you explain a little bit more so everybody understands how important this is?
Primarily, I've been dealing with this a lot with most of the residents in the village that have an issue with getting a permit about anything. They like to do the work themselves. There's no a permit being issued in Westchester County requires insurance, liability insurance, and workers' compensation. Homeowners can be their own contractor. We need a current listing of their homeowners insurance with a workers' comp rider. And so far, about 90% of the homeowners have had it and didn't know, or your policy could be amended. So we could let the homeowner be the contractor. And he could put his own cabinets in, he could install his tops, he could do things of that nature, but electrical and plumbing is specific to a licensed professional only, not primarily insurance reasons, as was explained before. If anything happens when they come in, if you have a metal box and they didn't wrap that outlet correctly and it catches fire in there, the insurance company is not going to pay because the licensed professional did not do that. So a lot of people do their own things, I understand, but it's not the correct way. I've been a contractor for 45 years. I am a licensed electrician and I take my continuing education. Homeowners can't even run low voltage wiring anymore. You need a permit for low voltage wiring in Westchester County. Your Cat 5 wires, your audio video cables. They don't want homeowners touching any wires anymore. Because they don't have the correct
If I got this right, if in other words, if somebody needs to have, an outlet redone just because it's too old or what have you, have I got it right? Now you're going to pay the electrician to come in and do this, but then you also got to pay a fee of $150.
But we're trying to those types of things. The electrician, it's a third party inspection for that with get an underwriter certificate for the electrician's work. We don't inspect their work, just the installation on a bigger project. So if there was a maintenance item and you wanted to upgrade your outlets and things of that nature, that's an electrician. He can get a permit and go straight to the underwriters and not go through the building department. But if you're installing a kitchen or a bathroom, there's a lot of criteria. You're upgrading fixtures, dishwashers, refrigerators, appliances, Heavier demanded items, they require a licensed electrician. Maintenance items like outlets.
Wait for a second. I understand that what you're saying, but what I'm trying to figure out in my head here is, for instance, like, somebody gets their dishwasher, which has to be hooked up electrically. Does that have to be done? All these places that sell these things, they come and I guess I assume that they're qualified to do this, but the homeowner needs to pay a fee for that to the village.
Technically, anything that's an appliance or a fixture that's being installed, there's a lot of requirements electrically, and the companies, the NEC requirements on that.
You're referring to a directly wired device, not a refrigerator.
Yeah, refrigerator is a plug item. Refrigerator is a plug item.
So you have to get a permit for that.
Not to put a refrigerator in, but if your dishwasher cannot be hardwired, your stove cannot be hardwired, and the time frame of the village, those things were allowed back in the many years ago. So when the companies come in and they install it for you, they're doing it illegally. It has to be a separately switched item. Dishwashers have to be unplugged or have a service switch. And again, anything electrical requirements are very large. Ground fault circuit interruption, the outlets near the sink. Everybody thinks they could just put an outlet in. Now you have to be 5 foot from any water location. It has to be controlled by a GFCI circuit. There's a lot of requirements. Things have changed. It's not like it was. Nothing is to be hardwired. Everything needs to be service switched or removed. And that's the problem. Most people don't understand that. It was like that for 50 years. Well, a lot of fires happened in 50 years, and now we avoid that by that. But if the homeowner does it himself or a handyman, and he's not certified to do that or have the proper up-to-code training for 2021, 17 things have changed since last year already.
But how does the average homeowner know, like, if they're getting a dishwasher put in, that the individual store that's selling them, that they are qualified plumber and or electrician?
No, they should have to ask that question. They'd have to ask. As a homeowner, I would ask myself, are you licensed to in the county to install this appliance in my home? And if they're not, then they can't. It has to be a little more, not common sense, but you have to have intelligence on that because this is your home. And if anything goes wrong, they're going to say, "Oh, the homeowner told me to do it." They're going to turn it back on you when they shouldn't have done it. That's all.
But maybe I think what should happen is, for a homeowner, I don't know this stuff. Maybe a homeowner should call the office there and ask, what they need to do, because you want to be covered. You want to be covered insurance wise. So I'm going to go to this one question. Dan asked, I don't know who he is, but do you just want a permit because the village makes money from the permit?
No.
Pretty soon you're going to need a permit to change a light bulb. I hope it doesn't come to that, Dan.
As long as they're not incandescent, they have to be LED. I'm sorry, that's energy code requirements.
Yeah.
But no, that's not what we're trying to do.
Thank you.
By the way, those are the current code requirements. They're not what is going to be discussed for changes. Those permits have been in there a long time. Those fees have been in there a long time.
Yes.
So that's not what's being debated to be changed.
But I just think it's informational because there are some people listening too. So.
Well, like he said, if you want to change your faucet in your sink, you need a licensed plumber.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
$20. You get a $20 faucet with $150 an hour plumber with $150 permit to do a 10-minute job because you got a leaking faucet.
I agree with you. Yeah, it's outrageous.
A lot of people who can't afford homes if they don't take care of their homes themselves.
And if it does fail,
that's okay.
If it does fail, it could be a $10,000 failure for structure damage from the insurance company because you got a leaky faucet.
Got it.
Yeah, you got to.
Insurance companies are brutal now.
Yes,
they are.
Yes,
all right. Do you guys want to go down like one by one? Or do you have anything? Do you have something you want to say, Peter? Do you want to?
No.
Okay.
I'd like to just ask a couple of questions. Maybe each person could ask whatever questions they have rather than go through the whole list.
Okay.
But under demolition permits, I see that some of the local municipalities charge $200-300 or so, and you're recommending a $2,000 fee for for demolition of a single family dwelling. Can you explain that? How, because that seems high compared to what the other municipalities are charging.
Okay.
That's to take a whole house down though.
Yeah, that's to take down a whole house, which involves the building department getting notification from the utility companies, water, electric, and gas, that everything has been properly disassembled and taken away. Also, as part of the demo, there's a necessity to check for asbestos in the window glazing and in pipe wrapping. And there's a number of things that need to be done that are all quality of life and health issues. That's one of the reasons we have to go out and do so many things. As far as a small thing, such as a shed or a pool or something, those are minor, and those are like, I think it was what, $100.
Yes, those were comparable.
Yeah, they're compared to what they're talking about over there. Commercial structures, which I'm sure you're aware of, there's a few that are going to be coming down shortly. And originally it was a $250 fee to take down anything, anywhere in the village, quantity, size, and all. The disassembly of some of these larger commercial places, $250 seems quite a bit on the low side, considering that there's thousands of square feet of buildings that have to come down. So I based one on the square footage of the buildings. I've been asked to group buildings in certain orders such that if they're all small buildings, up to 5 of them can be on a single permit. Also, the larger buildings, well, you got 2 gigantic buildings that have to come down, and they should not be $250 as per the current code.
Okay. So why are the other municipalities, what do the fees shown here not refer to a complete single family demolition?
That's what their definition is. They would go by square footage.
They're going by square footage on all these other buildings when they're talking about demolition.
Like where it says Peekskill resident demolition permit, $200 that they charge. What does that mean? Internal demolition as opposed to the whole structure?
That's for the application.
That's the cost of just the application.
Sorry.
Okay, and the size of the building can be additional fees.
They go by square.
Oh, it's just not indicated there. I see.
Correct.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay. I mean, it seemed high to me, but I see there's a lot involved, so.
It seems exorbitantly high. You know, there's no other community in the area that charges $2,000 for demolition. I think you're setting residents up to violate the law. You're making it almost an impossible criteria to meet.
Complete single family dwelling as opposed to individual.
Yeah.
Look, there is one other community that charges by square foot.
Yeah, they do. And
not the building schedule that you gave us.
That's all the information that was provided.
That's all the information they would release to us. We've asked over and over and over, and it's very difficult to get information on fees from other municipalities. So as best as we can understand it, the fees that they have provided to us, even though they may not be complete, were basically for applications only.
So this 2,000 that you're proposing includes the permit and the demolition, includes everything?
Yes.
For that size home?
Yeah, for that size, yes, sir.
Well, what's going to happen is the people aren't going to pay this fee. They're going to knock the building down on a Sunday night because every building made before 1972 has asbestos in it. So if you're going to make a $10,000 job become an $80,000 job, you're going to be chasing dumpsters going down the road.
Well, that's not necessarily true. We know if a building was up one day and it was down the next. I mean, we can talk about on White Street, that whole process. And yes, it had asbestos. And yes, the village ended up paying for it because it was in such a dangerous state. But, obviously your neighbor is going to notice one day if their house next door across the street came down. It's not going to be like phantom takedowns.
Well, I agree with you, but he also stated that we wanted to have a demolition permit for a pool.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that's being removed from the tax roll requires a demolition permit and a completion certificate. So if you want to take the pool down and no longer pay tax on it, or a garage, or a shed, that's your proof that the building is gone.
It makes it sound like everything's $2,000.
Yeah,
Yeah, but you would want to take something off the tax roll. Why would you want to still pay for it?
Correct. Yes, and that's for a whole house. That's not for a garage or a shed or a pool. Those
Okay.
are minor.
Can I suggest that regarding that specific item, we try to get a little bit more detail on some of the other local municipalities and so we can compare what they're doing? Because rather than just have you said that the fees shown here are just their permit fees. Maybe we can get, Marcus, I don't know if you're able to do this or maybe, there's got to be, some of this has to be online. I would suggest we research that one a little bit more and then go on to the other items.
All right, sir.
So what I want to ask about is the fire sprinkler system. So I know with the overlay district, there's talk about allowing to go to 3 floors. So they would be required, and I think it's state code, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct.
That it has to be. So now what about the existing, so somebody has an existing sprinkler system, they have it checked each year, their backflow preventer is checked each year, they get a report. Their sprinkler system is checked each year by a company. So would the village have to come in to also inspect on top of that?
No, we get a copy of the paperwork to show that it's been done.
Okay, all right.
So what are you observing? It says building department to observe. What do you
A new
observe?
sprinkler system to make sure that it matches the plan.
And the bell test.
Yeah, and an alarm test, the bell test. There's several things, the flow test. There's a number of things that we observe.
Isn't that already part of giving a CO for construction? Don't you
No,
verify
because
it?
not all construction has a sprinkler system.
Say again?
Not all construction has a sprinkler system.
Oh, no, when a building is constructed or an addition is constructed with a sprinkler system, that's part of the inspection criteria, isn't it?
In other municipalities, that's a mechanical permit, which we do not have. Sprinkler system is individual, it's completely separate. So we're trying to incorporate that into the building permit process. In Irvington and everywhere, other municipalities I've been involved with, the sprinkler system is its own permit with its own fees, which we have none of. So we were just trying to incorporate that back into our building permit in some small facet.
Oh, and the generator permit, right now there is none, but there is, okay, so with a generator permit, so what I think you're saying is that to make sure, because that's kind of dangerous. You just don't want Joe Schmo hooking up your generator.
Nope.
So electrical and plumbing permits, okay. And the solar panels, that seems to be the new hot thing, huh? Because that's going to replace Indian Point, every solar panel that ever was. 150 app for first 10,000 and above 10,000, $17 per every 1,000.
Can I ask on the building permit and on that solar permit, where you're recommending, proposing 17 per, above 10,000, $17 per 1,000? It was, we were $12 per 1,000 before. Is there a specific basis for the 17? How does that come about?
For the time it takes for us to go out and do all of the inspections and the paperwork and whatnot, the village is operating at a loss. We're trying to make it break even.
Gotcha. Okay. Fair enough on that. Teresa, you going through some questions?
Yeah, those were kind of the questions I was looking at that jumped out at me.
On the fire inspection, who determines when a fire inspection is required?
New York State, depending upon 3-family or bigger or commercial, and also a place of public assembly. That's who determines a fire inspection's regularity.
So this isn't just any commercial space, any retail space, any lease space?
All of those spaces are governed by New York State, requiring a fire inspection.
Every year?
Some of them are every year. Some 3 families can go as far as 2 years, some even can go as far as 3. It would depend upon the physical size and the height of the building. You can have a 3-family spread out over 1 floor, or you can have a 3-family spread vertically. And the vertically one are more dangerous than the horizontal one.
And that $25 per dwelling, that only references, you said dwellings are 3 units per dwelling?
Well, some buildings have 3 dwelling units in them, some have 2, but we inspect 3 and above.
3 and above, okay.
So let's say the apartment building on Bannon Avenue, which somebody please refresh my memory. How many units are in there? Anybody know?
I think
18, 19?
So they would have to get an annual inspection at $25 per unit?
that would be correct, sir.
Is that what they currently do?
At the moment, they're not actually getting fire inspections, so we're trying to accomplish that.
And that's a requirement by New York State now?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
And when you put under the current fee schedule NA, does that mean we currently have no fee?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. That seems, if it's required by state law and it has to get done annually, that seems reasonable.
And I think it's important people understand, like, we're not, there's county has requirements, the state has requirements. It's not like, we're just looking at fees here, guys. We're not looking at, you know, all this other stuff, because this is getting all twisted. Like now, you know, we're going to charge this because, you know, there are requirements. And, you know, and I don't like some of but it's code. You know, and God forbid, you know, always think about these insurance companies are very, very tough now. And if they can find a little nook and cranny to get out of paying you, believe me, they're right there.
But Teresa, that's still kind of mind-boggling to me. So if your pipe below your kitchen sink breaks, you got to get a plumber. And I think this is what Sean was saying, is that now I got to go down to the village first to get a permit, and I got to hire the plumber and pay the plumber and pay for the part. So we're talking about for like, you know, a U-shaped part below your thing, you're talking about $300.
Yeah. I'm not in agreement with the plumbing stuff. I think that's excessive. Honestly, I think, you know,
okay,
it's not our code, you know, so let's go back to, it's not our code. It's the state code and things. And
I know about the code. Yeah.
But you know what? But people are thinking that we're making up this new code now so that we can, you know, get more money for permits. And no. That's not what it is. There are codes on the books.
Understood. But my question here is too, is it incumbent upon the professional, the person with the license, to get the permit, and then they can charge you for whatever they pay for the permit? Or it does the person, you know, in other words, if your pipe breaks, time means a lot.
Sure.
You have no water or something, and now you got to go. And if it's the weekend, you got to wait till Monday to go to the village, and then you got to go get the permit. Then you got to call up a plumber, or is there, because these people are licensed, could they do their work first and then get the thing in retrospect?
Yes, that's exactly the case.
It happens quite often.
We've had
Emergency situations,
yes,
sure.
We've had several emergency situations.
Yeah, water lines, sewer lines, all kinds of things
Boilers,
break, have to be
water
repaired.
heaters.
Boilers.
Electricity.
We'll get the permit.
Yes.
Or electricity, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So could you tell me what this gas test is with a building permit?
Sure. A gas test is a integrity test on the gas piping to make certain that when the gas line is pressurized with flammable gas or volatile gas, that there are no leaks. It's a test that's required. Con Edison requires it, and it requires us to issue something called a blue card at the end to show that it was successful integrity test of pressure on the pipe.
So why would there be somebody redoing gas pipelines without a building permit?
Without a building permit, it would be very dangerous. But gas pipelines, people change things. Your kitchen stove is gas and it's on the back of the building, and now you choose to put it on the side. You're adding additional gas piping. And when you do that, You have to have an integrity test on what you're changing.
Oh, no, I agree with you 100%. I was just wondering, so we're going to remove that word out of the fee schedule because the current schedule says without building permit and with building permit.
There was a different price.
So there's not going to be any work without a building permit is what you're saying.
I guess there's a misunderstanding in the wording. If you were doing a project and there was gas piping involved, that would be with the permit. Is a different fee for that. As a
Correct.
plumber.
Yeah.
If it was just an individual, I did an individual
Gas line for a barbecue out on the deck.
and a pool heater that was disconnected for
pool
4
heater.
years.
Yeah.
I had to recertify that line or prove that it took a pressure test. So Con Ed would turn the meter back on. That was just an individual gas item, but it wasn't related. It should say
It wasn't
without
related to a permit.
building permit. It should say with permit. Building permit should have been added. That's a mistake.
Okay,
So-
what you're going to do
Yes.
is remove without building permit.
Yep.
And the only thing that's going to be on this matrix is going to say with building permit. Is that correct?
Hold on.
Reading it.
Where is it?
No, I
Current
think,
matrix allows you to do gas piping with and without a building permit.
yeah, I think what Peter and Brian was saying, let's say you have I think I'm not an expert on this either. You got a pool and the pool gas line was shut off. You without a permit, you need to turn that gas line back on. That would be
You can't do
acceptable
it
without
unless
a
you're a
permit.
licensed plumber.
Yes.
Is that correct, Peter?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure.
You have to be licensed to work on gas lines.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Not only that, but Con Ed certified.
That's another license.
That's another thing. Being a licensed plumber is not enough.
Con Ed requires more.
Oh.
Wow.
We should remove that line out of there so there's no confusion. If somebody reads that and says, I'm going to do this because this says I don't need a permit, I'll just give you $75.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if we need to play with gas or electricity,
Is that test basically the brush and soap?
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. No, it's a pressure
It's a
test.
pressure test over
Yeah.
time.
It used to be done with a special gauge called a Magna Helix, but the Magna Helix proved to be too sensitive in cold weather. So Con Edison now allows someone to use a basic pressure gauge. And the pressure is tested at anywhere from 2 to 5 times the pressure that it would normally operate on.
So all you do is you put the gauge on there, you pressurize it, and then you shut the isolation valve. And over a certain period of time, you have to see if you have a decrease in pressure.
That is
Absolutely correct.
That is
Yes, sir.
But when
Sean, you know a lot about that stuff. You should do it for a living.
when it's with temperature, the colder it gets, the pressure goes down without losing volume.
Yes.
Correct.
Very good. Okay, what other questions do we have on, and once again, we're just discussing the fees. We're not discussing,
Yeah, I have one other thing on the
distorted.
Yes.
on the temporary storage units, pods as they're often called.
Yep.
There is nothing in the fee schedule, and
Yeah, no, it
the
is.
cooks our building inspectors are proposing a fee of $250 plus $100 check for security fee. That's a refundable. I don't understand. What's the $100 check for a security fee? What is?
That's to protect the street from the truck or the roll-off. They don't roll off like a carting container. They drop off the truck. So if they damage or scratch the street, we're trying to have a little security for that. And if they don't, we return it.
Okay.
That's what Peekskill has enforced.
So if they are going to get a pod, they have to pay a $250 application fee.
Yes.
It's more than they're probably paying for the pod.
Now they're up there. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, there is we had an issue with a pod some years ago and addressed it, and as a result modified section
137-2
137 in our code,
Mhm.
which addresses these storage lockers. This was amended in 2012, and I didn't think it was that long ago, but
Yeah.
there's the date, 2012. So in this property maintenance section, we listed the pod and said that there would be a $25 fee for a 30-day permit to have a pod. And I think we need to take the fee and put it in the fee schedule because
It wasn't there.
it's not going to be apparent that there's a fee for this if it's not listed in the fee schedule.
Yes, sir.
And I kind of think that a $250 fee is a bit much. I'm fine with going higher than 25, somewhere in between those two, but that seems a little high to me, the 250. And I like the idea of it. Our property maintenance code allows it to sit there for 30 days for $25. And I like the idea of shortening the amount of time you can have a pod there, because they're generally meant for, it's not meant to be a permanent storage locker. It's meant to be something you load up while you're moving in or out, or, you know.
Yes.
So I think 5 days, if somebody's packing up a pod as they go through their house for planning for a move, 5 days could be a pretty short period. Oh, wait a minute. 5 days on street. Oh, 14 days on property. Okay. I didn't see that. So, so I think I'm okay with the 14 days, but I think that something a little less than 250 would be more appropriate to me. I don't know. Is that something
Nick,
that
Nick, in Peekskill, it's the same fee. I just want to make sure aware that you know that, because I paid it myself. Just for your information.
And what is this saying? In NA, in Croton, there is no fee.
They don't
And
allow
in
them.
Portland, they're not allowed at all.
They don't allow
They're
them
not
at all.
permitted.
They're not permitted at all.
Dang. I don't know. What's the rest of the board feel in this one? Any other opinions on this?
I think that fee is way too high. There's $250 for somebody to help clean out their yard or to clean out their house. We addressed it. The reason why we created that law for dumpsters and pods is because they were being permanent structures.
Yeah.
People leaving dumpsters out on the street for weeks at a time. People
Right.
leaving pods for months at a time, years at a time.
Right.
Just
It was like a house organizing
all
tool.
over. I don't believe the resident is receiving a service worth the value of the permit. We should be encouraging people to clean up their property, encouraging people to clean up their yards, you know, and not telling them, hey, if you're gonna move, we're gonna increase your cost by $250 when you're moving, you know. If you want to throw $50 on there, or maybe even $100, or if you just want to have a security deposit to ensure that the curbs aren't damaged. But the majority of people put those pods and dumpsters in their own property. So I'd be against this type of fee.
We'll consider it.
But you know what? I thought we had voted on something that they could only be there a certain length of time.
30 days. And it was for
30 days for
$25.
$25.
Yeah, so.
But this is an increase to $250
Yeah,
plus
no.
$100 security deposit for
Yeah.
14 days.
Yeah.
And so I kind of like the original legislation. And if you wanted to include something for a security fee for damage, that's one thing, but I think that's a little exorbitant. I don't believe the resident is going to be receiving the service with the same value that they're being charged.
Yep. Nope.
How about we go to $75 for this fee?
For 30 days.
Yeah. Oh, well,
I think
what's the time frame that you normally want to allow these things?
This says only 5 days.
Well, that's 5 days if it's on the street,
Well,
and I like that.
Property.
But if it's
only
on your
from
property,
7:30 to- Nick, it's only from 7:30 to 5 o'clock at night. You can't be
On
overnight.
the street, days
on
only.
the street, yes. Nothing on the street.
Specifically states it right there. On property, 14 days. On street, 5 days.
So if the guy wants it for 10
wait a
days,
minute.
he has to have 2 applications.
I don't get this. It's got to be there overnight if it's on the street for 5 days.
Yeah, no
Yes.
more than 5
The
days.
way this is worded, 7:30 to 5 p.m.,
You can't,
it
can't
makes
be
it
up
sound like you got to move it in your driveway in the evening.
It can't arrive earlier than 7:30 in the morning, and on the 5th day, it has to be gone
by 5:30.
by 5:30.
Oh, okay. That wording, okay.
Yeah,
we
that's
can word that.
that's not clear. I agree.
Yeah.
It sounds like they have to take
Yeah,
away
it sounds
every
like,
day.
okay, oh, honey, why don't you cook dinner while I go bring the pot into the driveway?
Mhm.
Sorry about that.
So we got
All right.
to work on that wording. So we got to say
Yeah.
it's a
Okay.
maximum of 5 days, but the last day has to be out by 5 o'clock.
I
Is that what you're
think
trying to
some
say?
people don't have driveways, so if it's going to go on the street, I like the 5-day limit.
Yeah.
I
And it's
think
also-
that I'm fine with the 14 days on property too.
Excuse
But
me,
there
can
should-
I just say something? Sorry.
Stephanie, thank
Yeah.
you.
I think our code permits 30 days.
Yes, I believe so.
So I think if you're going to amend the code, you have to amend the code before you do it a fee schedule that doesn't comply with it.
That's going to have to be a local law, correct?
Okay, so we have to revise this guy, 137. And
Well, you have to revise it. No, well, you have to revise it, or you have to change their fees to be 30 days instead of 14. Right?
Okay.
Change the fee
Can we-
schedule.
That's all you got to do. Yeah, change the fee schedule.
Yeah, if we change the fee schedule and put it in there, can we, at the same time, have it replace this? So it's done at one time? Do we have to have a separate?
Yeah, Nick, hold on. Why do you want to amend the local law to permit only 14 days, or do you want to just amend the fee schedule to allow 30 days so it complies with our law?
And then make it 125 then.
For 30 days, so it complies with our code.
If you keep the 30 days, make it 125 then. Split the difference. It's still half of what other people are getting, other municipalities.
Yeah, okay. I mean, right now, it's allowing 30 days for $25 and an extension of another 30 days for another $25.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm fine with raising the fee to something in that range. 250 is definitely too high. The security deposit is fine. Is that security deposit refunded if there is no damage?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
And what is, I don't know, what does the rest of the board think in terms of how long they should be allowed? Stay with the 30 days that we currently have?
But to change the days, as Stephanie said, you have to change the law.
What does the rest of the board think?
I think
Leave the law in
the 30 days, I think, is fine, because sometimes people are in a situation where they, I don't know, maybe they had a leak, their house flooded, they need to put the property somewhere. What are they going to do? Leave it out on the street? So, most people get pods. And then if whatever construction is going on in their house, then another 30 days, I don't want to say to people they can only have it for 2 weeks or something like that, because there's situations where people get these pods. It's not like everybody wants to get a pod in their front yard, but sometimes there's a problem.
Okay, so 30-day stay with the fee, 75, 100, 125. What does the board like?
I'm personally in favor of a lower fee for a shorter period of time and the ability to renew it. Because if somebody gets a pod delivered on, on a Friday and they finish loading it up on the weekend and they have somebody pick it up on a Monday, I don't think they have to pay the same fee as somebody that has it sitting there for 30 days. So I'd be in favor of a shorter time period and a lower fee, and then renew it after that shorter period of time. Maybe that's 75 for 14 days and renew it for another 75 for another 14 days.
I hate to drag this up again, but I mean, I'm concerned with the most common thing people do is under the electrical permit and the plumbing permit. And those fees are very high. I mean, if I'm going to get my house, add on to my house, I'm going to expect to pay a big fee. But the most common things done here is for an electrical permit and a plumbing permit. And unless I think Sean mentioned, unless I'm talking about, if I got a broken pipe, I got to pay $150 for a permit, $25 for a CO, probably $150 for a plumber to come and the part. We're talking for a minor plumbing thing. We're talking about close to costing a homeowner $350 or $400.
And that's based on the repair of an emergency situation. We already said that we wouldn't require a permit for that. So the licensed professional still has to do the job.
Oh, you wouldn't have to have the permit then?
For a repair, especially an emergency repair.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm sorry. I
didn't know if I made that clear.
It's me. I probably not figuring. And would the same thing go about an emergency electrical thing too?
Similar. It depends. The
electrical thing has a higher value. In the case of a storm and you lose your incoming power lines and whatnot.
Right.
It's an emergency repair. We permit that to happen, but it does have to be taken out as an electrical permit because it has to be inspected by the electrical underwriters, as well as issuance of a certificate from them to show that the work was properly done.
Now that electrical underwriter that's not you and that's not the electrician.
None of us.
That's a third party.
Correct. We don't want that responsibility at all.
Just from my knowledge here, how long does it take for a third party to come and inspect the thing?
Depending upon their status with the agency that does the inspection, it could be 1 to 3 days.
Okay.
If they owe the electrical inspection agency money, then we have another concern and it could take longer, but that's not the village's problem.
Then do you come back and then how does the homeowner like clear, I've done everything right. What do you give them something then?
We get the underwriter certificate from the electrical inspection agency to say that everything has been inspected and it's certified and it's passed.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, so going back to the pods and stuff like that, Nick, to do your changes, you need a local law change. So the question is, what does the board want to do now?
Fine. I think we should. I don't like the idea of these things sitting in somebody's driveway for 2 months. So a shorter period at a lower fee for the person who gets it in and out in a few days, I think would be fair. And with the ability to extend it, like maybe $75 for 14 days. And if you want to keep it for another 14 days, another $75. I think it should be.
You have to amend the law. The law
I think
allows you 30 days for $25.
Let's amend it.
You're getting bogged down on $50 here.
Yeah, I just want 30 days is fine. I think they rent them monthly. I don't think they rent them for 2 weeks, so that's what the law was. Just figure out if you want to charge a fee for this.
So let's double the fee that's in the local law, Nick. How's that? We double the fee and we keep the length of time and terms of conditions the same, and we add $100 refundable security deposit, which can be done without changing a local law, without having to go. All you have to do is type in a couple of different words on this piece of paper and you're done. You don't have to prorate something and change this.
Well, if we're changing the fee, we're amending the local law anyway, aren't we?
No, we're changing the fee. That's all we're talking about tonight is changing the fee schedule with these items. And everybody's getting all upset about all kinds of other things.
Well, we're not going to vote on these fees tonight, so I think
we're not.
We should.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to try to narrow the scope, so that way we're going to discuss it at the next meeting. We can try to narrow it down to a final document that everybody can feel comfortable with voting on.
If we're going to change the fee, we don't want a conflicting document on another page that says the fee is $25. So to me, we got to amend this chapter 137 section 2.3. We got to amend that anyway, so we don't have one part of the code book conflicting with another part. We need to amend this to say that the fee is in the fee schedule and take it out of here, even if we're going to leave the window at 30 days. So I'm okay with the 50 if the rest of the board feels the same. I think I'd probably prefer 75 if somebody's going to have 30 days to keep it there. But, but either way, if we're changing the fee at all, to me, we don't want a conflicting thing. We got to amend this anyway, which is a later discussion in this workshop, if I'm still awake, about having the code reviewed to look for inconsistencies.
Yes.
Yeah, because we're just at the first thing in the workshop, and we still have a lot of other items to cover. So let's let's get the wording to that. I'm still uncomfortable with the plumbing fees. I just, that's me though. But I can understand the gas, dangerous. I can understand the electrical. That could be dangerous. You don't want people in panel boxes and things like that. So,
but Mayor, the plumbing fees and the electrical fees are not a point of discussion. They are not a change on the proposed fee schedule. The only things that are
going all over the place here. And we had people upset. You mentioned, if you have to change a faucet and this and that.
I didn't mention that. They mentioned that.
We went there.
I just reiterated it.
I know. We went there, Sean. That's all I'm saying. That's please. You're always argumentative. You're always looking for a fight. I just am saying, I was just, I don't want people to be upset thinking, they got to spend $150 to change their faucet because people are hearing different things from what we're discussing here. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Thank you. Okay. I'm glad you enjoyed that. Good.
It's funny because I didn't bring that up.
Okay, no, that came from somewhere then. That was a
Yeah,
discussion.
it came from the building inspectors, and when
Was
Rich
I-
had a question about it, I reiterated it
$10 on
to
a
Rich.
faucet, then you got to get somebody to come in. It could be $100.
Okay, anyway, there's no,
So let's move on because we
stop
are,
it, stop it. All right, so
Yeah,
there's no
I'm
proposed
fine.
change to the,
I'm not the
there's
one.
no
I'm not the
proposed
one
change for those
attacking.
fees there
I get
anyway.
attacked.
Oh, it's not even to be debated.
Okay.
So let's move on.
Right. So we're
So-
moving on. So we're gonna talk because we have Todd waiting for us. Are we done now with the building?
One last question.
department?
I have
Any
one
other
last
questions
question.
for
On the
building?
elevator inspection, there's no fee proposed? It's it just says supply certificate
Oh,
and 5-year weight test required,
Yeah,
but there's no fee proposal on this?
it's third party now.
It's a third-party inspection by a qualified elevator inspector.
And a company.
So the village does not need to be involved with that?
We're not involved with it. Sometimes we would go to witness it to make certain as a brand new elevator exactly how it's going to be
Okay.
opening.
Okay.
But there's no
Is there-
fee. But there's no
Is there,
fee.
is there an elevator anywhere in the village other than the one in
Oh.
Village Hall?
Entergy.
Entity's administration building? Are those the only 2 elevators in the whole village?
No, there's others. I don't know exactly where they all are, but there are others.
They're around. Okay. All right. Thank you, building inspectors, for coming this evening for our lively discussion. And now we're going to move on
Thanks,
to reviewing the village code. And we have Todd here this evening to discuss that.
So as the board asked, General Code provided us a proposal, which I supplied to the village board a couple months ago. So Todd is here to answer any questions on the proposal and what the scope of work would be. So Todd, thank you so much for waiting. Todd, why don't you explain a little bit what your scope would be so the board's going to understand it and the general public, and then we're going to answer any questions. Thank you.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I'm looking forward to this. This is what I do every day, and I'm actually excited to help you with this initiative. My name's Todd Metcalf. I'm the New York, I cover all of New York State for General Code. And this is exciting. General Code, real quickly, for those of you, just for a quick highlight, 60-year-old company based in Rochester, New York. We specialize in codification services, so we create, maintain, and review municipal codes. As you know, and you're a great customer, electronic code access is available through eCode 360. We also offer an interactive zoning map. We'll put that aside for later. Currently, 3,300 municipalities are relying on General Code for their code work, their creation, recodification, or supplementation of their municipal code. There's over 2,300 electronic versions out there. And as of today, good thing I didn't have this slide up. We added 2 more eCode municipalities in New York. We're over 650 municipalities with their code in electronic version. I did provide the proposal. I'm certainly available to answer any questions, but bottom line, you have an existing code. It's been kept up to date very well over the years. The last time it was, quote, codified and adopted, and I shouldn't say codified, the last time it was adopted was in 1992. So it's been 30 years, updated continuously, but since it's had a true editorial analysis, review, check, as you mentioned, for inaccuracies, conflicts with local laws that have been passed over the years that maybe got in some chapter, just all the changes, as well as changing state laws that may be in conflict or with the existing code. So that being said, I see you're on a schedule. I provided this proposal, a supplement schedule. So you technically schedule to supplement the books and the electronic version twice a year. If there isn't legislation, obviously we don't supplement or do that. I did see, since I provided you this proposal, you've adopted 2 additional local laws, 1 and 2 of 2021. I've received those. They're up on eCode right now under the new laws section, waiting to be codified through the supplementation process. And that's kind of where we are today. What we will do, should you decide to move forward, we will take your existing code and we'll go through it line by line, page by page, and do an editorial analysis of the code. Prepare a editorial analysis, a workbook with all the suggestions, inaccuracies, changes, everything that my editorial staff will do, all legal editors, and provide you this workbook, which then you will work through, answer the questions, change the language the way you want to make it fit, return that to us. We will then redo, update, recodify your code, create a draft for you. Any changes, last minute changes, things along those lines are then changed. We then will produce your code for you. And we need to talk, I did take out of there that I guess there was some discussion by you all about not needing or not wanting hard copy books or book. So I have removed that. So it would just be an electronic version of your code that we would be updating. And then we would create the adoption local law for you. You would come back to this meeting and at that time and adopt that new local law. So that's pretty high level, you know, that's it in a nutshell. So I think it's probably more productive usually when I'm at the meetings to answer any questions you've had now that you've had a chance to review the proposal.
Yeah, I have one. When you look over the code, then would you indicate what, or if there are any parts of the code that has to be updated for legal purposes, and indicate that other parts of the code, I mean, I'm sure parts of the code are kind of outdated. It doesn't, happen in this, with the new automation and everything else, there's probably things outdated. But do you indicate those things, each one of those parts of the code say, well, this has to be changed in order to satisfy the state. You can change this if you want, and also what you would recommend. Do you go down like that, or is it?
Absolutely. Everything, and when we do the manuscript that comes back with all the editorial analysis, we'll spell out in a quick little sentence and give you 3 options.
Okay.
Leave as is, update with suggestions, and all of that. So it's kind of a tool, and we've even been toying with this a little bit electronically, so you can go right in the PDF and check the box, or you even have an option that says needs more discussion, will finalize later. So I always recommend going through the manuscript, the editorial analysis that we prepare for you, that you knock out the bulk of it that's easy, yes, and then if there needs discussion or go back, or you need us to consult with and on that's what we specialize in.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Do you have conversations with any of us at the village as you're going through it? Because some of the code, is specific to the village, obviously, right? I can see if something is not updated with the state laws or village law, but there are some things you might see as inconsistent and tweak it one way versus the other. So would you have conversations with some of us?
Ongoing. It's
Good.
the best to have a committee. I've done a number of these, and I've seen them go where they'll assign the animals chapter and chapter whatever to a certain person to review. The zoning goes to someone else, and there's committees, and then they kind of come together and they put their changes. So that's ongoing. It's your code. It is your code. We don't. We make the suggestions. We've got thousands of these, as I mentioned, and that's where we bring our expertise in.
All right, thank you.
So if you were to find some code violations, a conflict, a village code conflict with New York State code, would you recommend text changes or would you automatically change it? Because I think there's a process we have to go through to change the actual codes themselves, the laws themselves. So how would that go?
It's all laid out for you with suggestions or with mandatory replacements and that, so that you're aware of it before anything is done. But again,
I think, let me explain, going through this before Todd maybe explain this. What will happen, Sean, is they'll give you a final draft that it will be a public hearing, that you will have a public hearing and adopt the code changes as one document that actually provided to the general public. So it'll be a public hearing process that you will go through at the end, Todd, if I remember correctly. I did it many years ago.
Yes, I think Sean's a step back before we get to that. Actually, before we would even, and I don't want to put words in your mouth or guess what you're trying to say, but I think it's more before we even create, when we're doing the editorial analysis and we've come up with the manuscript that you are going to review line by line of our suggestions, it is, and let me know if I'm wrong here, but I think your question's more about before we ever even finish the manuscript to give it to you.
No, what I mean is when you go through and do the review and compare the rules and regulations that have changed within the state that maybe we haven't kept up with, and you identify those, would you recommend a text change to bring us into compliance with state laws within our code? And once you give us the text change, then we can follow the process for amending the entire code. That's my question.
Yes, that's the intent, and you will be alerted when there's a state this needs to be done. The one thing that we will supplement your code one more time, should you decide that this is the direction you want to go, we will do a supplement to bring it as current based on your local legislation before we go in and do the entire editorial analysis. So we've got it as current as you have given us information to do, and then we'll go forward. Then additional legislation can come in, but it'll be up on the electronic version under the new laws tab. I don't know how familiar you all are with your E-code. Sounds like you're pretty familiar. The new laws tab, as soon as the legislation comes in, it goes there. So your code is current. It's just not codified in the appropriate chapters or sections.
But you can still do a keyword search and get into the new laws database, correct?
Absolutely. It will show you where your search terms are in the existing code, where they're in public documents, if you're using public documents on your E-code, and where they are in new laws. You're absolutely right.
Will you be finding the conflicts in the different sections of the code, or are you going to depend on our input to say, maybe section 201 is in conflict with section 188? Will you be discovering that, or is it incumbent upon us to discover it and request changes from you?
Another great question. No, we will find inconsistencies between chapters or conflicts between chapters.
Right.
Again, that will all be spelled out, and you'll say, you know what, we want it that way because of whatever. And then we move forward. So.
Okay. You don't take down offense until you know how it was built.
And we found recently some inconsistencies, so that's why I personally feel that it's important that we get this addressed.
Yep.
And this is not uncommon, because it's been 30 years since you technically have had a full editorial legal analysis done of your code. And even though it's been updated and they've gone into the sections where they should go, that's why, again, usually I'm doing these sometimes I even talk about it at 5 years and mostly 10, but it's not uncommon to have 30 years or more, because I haven't been out to remind everybody that their code was adopted in 1973 or 92 or whatever. So.
Can I ask a question? So
please.
Your summary says the process will identify conflicts, redundancies, and inconsistencies. And I also find that there are a lot of vagaries and sometimes definitions that are missing or inadequate. Do you also look for that? Because there are times where I find the code is not specific enough. I don't know if I could think of an example at the moment, but sometimes it can be interpreted in such a, the interpretation is not precise. Or the way things are worded, it could have a different meaning. Do you look for those kinds of things where there's a vagueness to a passage or something that needs to be made more specific? It's not an inconsistency. It's not a conflict, but it is a lack of clarity. Does your editorial review go that far?
any question, that will be another piece, that any question they have that doesn't quite make sense to that legal editor, who in your case has been doing this 30 years, is that since you probably adopted your code list, but she will ask those questions and put those into the editorial analysis. Clarification.
Okay.
Does this, again, so any
Okay.
of that you can always
So
add.
there'll be notes made to that effect
Yeah,
if they
and
see
this is-
something like that.
And Nick, this is where this ongoing dialogue happens. So if she comes across something in the animals chapter and has a question, that gets sent, for clarification, but it's also noted that we found it and asked about it, and here was the reply.
Okay.
So what does the board think? Would they like to move forward with this?
I would.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I would like to think about it, but I think, I think it would make sense. I'd like to hear what the other two board members would say about it too.
It sounds fine to me. A lot of the vagueness that you're talking about, Nick, might have been intentionally put in there to allow for different types of interpretations.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I really don't see an issue with the code being reviewed. I'm sure there'll be some things that we find that we're not in compliance with New York State, just because we haven't had to change anything in a long time in certain areas. So it would.
There's also outdated stuff, like the use regulations refer to businesses that don't exist anymore, and do not include. I mean, and this may not be part of this project, but there are newer uses, electronics and different types of things that didn't exist when the code was written, that are not in there. So.
I'm not so sure he's talking about changing. Are you going to be reviewing the table of bulk regulations as well, and sign codes and stuff like that? Because
part of the code book
matrices. You're just going to do the text, right? Or are you going to do the entire matrix, all the matrices?
I am reviewing it. We'll be reviewing everything.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, we've often talked about. I brought it up a number of times that our code needs a complete review, and then magically along came Mr. Metcalf. So I think we should definitely be doing this.
I don't believe there's an issue with allowing him to perform this work. So
Okay, good. And I just want to check, has Anthony dialed in or?
no, Anthony's not going to be available. He's on the Springbrook Parkway or the Bronx River Parkway doing emergency repairs. So
All right. Just wanted
he's in
to
the truck
check.
right now. He was hoping he would be able to get involved prior to the meeting because his work wasn't supposed to start between 8 and 8:30. He wanted to get involved with the budget discussion and parts of the other parts of the agenda, but what his profession does not allow him to be in the air, be able to watch your phone while you're operating heavy equipment.
No, I just wanted to check to see if he had an opportunity to call in. That's all. But thank you. Yeah, I had spoken to him earlier today.
Last question is for me. Is Marcus? Maybe you can answer this. Did we exclude the print publication of the code book from this proposal because we intend to print it ourselves?
No, I as far as I know, not too many people are using we could put code books back in there, but since everybody was using more the online system, if you want to add books on there too, we could if you wanted to. It's just an additional cost if the village board wants to spend the additional money. That's all. I never used a book. I go online and every time I want to look up the code.
I'm old fashioned. I like paper, hard copies of things that I could scribble on.
All right, so all you got to do as a board, tell Todd how many books you want, and he can incorporate that into his proposal.
How much is a book?
Todd?
It varies. It's going to be between because it's a part of the project, I'd like to try to, help that out and bury it in there. I don't remember what the first proposal called for 5 books. And I think it was, I don't remember, quite frankly.
Wasn't it like $300 or $400 a book? It was up there.
Yeah, it is. And I'm not sure and again, it's because it's in that post binder with your seal and the 3 posts. And I haven't had very many municipalities go straight electronic. They usually keep one in the vault with the clerk. Sometimes the attorney wants a book, somebody, and again, I'm a book guy too, but I will certainly present it anyway. If you figure out the number of books you think you need, I'll try to do what I can. I also, again, you've got additional legislation that I want to incorporate into the price too. So,
Well, let me ask you, Marcus, if we just get the electronic version, we have our binders. Would it be feasible for us to print them out?
Well, if the whole code gets redone, you're talking about thousands of pages to be printed out. So,
well, and before, again, I understand where you come. You have the ability to, I believe, to print the whole code. Now, the tricky thing about that is every time you do an update or a supplement, or you won't have a supplement anymore if you don't have books, but every time you do an update, you need to print that code off of E-code again so that you have print copies.
Updated.
Right? But I recommend that to people who call me and say, hey, we got 2 new, board members and they both want a book and I need to, I mean, they can be expensive. And I tell them, print the thing off of E-code or download it to PDF.
Yep.
And then just remember, you got to do it when you update it. So
This is one of my cherished possessions. I sleep with it.
whatever the board likes, just email me how many books you want, so we can include it part of the proposal, whatever you like.
Right.
You have 5 right now in your possession. Somebody has 5 books within the municipality.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we currently update when we do update.
I haven't gotten an update in years.
No.
I know,
Well,
that's part of the problem.
Yeah, I have a book here and it hasn't been updated probably in 10 years.
That's
Well,
right.
Thankfully, I don't use it. I only use online, but
I've brought mine into the village hall and been given updated pages a few times.
All right, so whatever the board would like, and Todd, if you can give us a proposal how much each book would be, at least they can consider what they want to do. We can always amend the agreement with those many books, whatever you guys like.
Okay.
It's pretty expensive. Maybe just get one from me and everybody else could use the electronic version.
Geez, thanks, Nick. All right. Let's figure out one or
Never
two.
comes out.
Keep at the office or something, so people can review it.
The other thing I would just mention, and I know I should probably just be quiet because we're moving forward, but that I just don't like any surprises. This is not an overnight project.
Oh, I know.
And from a budget perspective, you could see the way I broke it out there on the total cost and how it's broken out by threshold. So this could easily go over 2 budget periods. If everything got on time from my timeline there, that right there is 17 months to the day if everything gets in. And so just something to think about, that it's not that you're coming up with $11,150 right now, if that's an issue.
wow.
Well, I'm glad it takes some time because this way, it'd be thorough. It's not going to be done in 30 days. It's a lot to go through. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Todd, for coming this evening.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you. Don't hesitate to reach out, Marcus. I appreciate your taking the lead on this and working with me.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you so much.
All
Take
right,
care.
thank you. David
Thank you.
Stolman, are you still awake? Because now we're going to move on to a discussion of rezoning the Indian Point property.
Good evening. Hi, everybody.
Hi, David.
How are you?
Hey, David.
Would you like me to talk, Mayor?
Sure. Yes, absolutely. Please.
Okay. Last time we were talking about this, it was clear that we needed a map so that we could look at the various portions of the Indian Point property and decide which portions to do some master planning and zoning on. So I sent you all a map and a narrative today. Marcus, I can put that map on the screen if I can share my screen.
Go right ahead, David.
Okay, thank you. Oh boy. I'm working with a brand new computer that I just got yesterday.
Oh, boy. Takes time.
Oh, and I'm doing what I normally do, but I don't see what I should be seeing.
I can bring it up, David. First of all, your video's not on. You want to turn on your video too, if you like? I can try to find it. I think I might have a copy of it. There you go, David. So on the bottom, you just see share screen?
I press share screen and I should see all the things that I have open, but I'm not seeing.
Yeah, you are allowed to share, but if you can't find them, see if I can find it. Give me a second.
I apologize.
No, that's all right.
Well, I think everyone knows the parcel we're dealing with, the parcel B from the.
You have your map? Marcus, maybe you just
I'm bringing it up right now. Give me a second.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you. Yeah, because this was what the state had commissioned with.
Can you see it?
Yep, you can see it. Yes.
There you go.
That's it.
So this is a map that was originally in the DL English report, and there are 4 parcels here, parcels A, B, C, and D. And we divided D up into 3 separate parcels, D1, D2, and D3, after talking about this with Marcus, because there seemed to be parts of parcel D, which parcel D is needed for the decommissioning of the plant, but there seemed to be parts of parcel D that might be available, might not actually be needed, and might be available as well. Marcus, can you pull up the narrative for a second?
Sure.
And maybe we should let's just remember that parcel D is the main parcel. Parcel B is the upper most portion, 50 acres or so, that is completely undeveloped. Parcel A is in the southwesterly corner, as is parcel C on the other side of Broadway.
What's happening here? Give me a minute.
Sure.
Sorry, guys. Give me a second.
whole night.
Okay, can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Is this what you want to? Do you want to? Is this size big? Do you want to zoom out or stay here?
I think the size is fine. Marcus, why don't you scroll down to where it says starts with parcel A? So this is the description of these various parcels or portions. They're not separate parcels actually, but parcel A is at a higher elevation as compared to the rest of Indian Point. It is relatively flat, contains a limited number of buildings and separate access roads. Easements in parcel A exist for electrical transmission lines, the gas transmission line, and road access for access to the adjacent Continental Gypsum plant. Parcel B is that undeveloped property in the northerly portion of the site. It's a virgin property that has a rocky terrain with multiple steep grade changes. It also abuts the independent spent fuel storage installation location. Aerial photography records show that this parcel to be unchanged since 1927. Parcel C across Broadway includes the site of two previous gas turbine units and an associated fuel oil storage tank. One turbine has been removed and the remaining unit is currently not operable. This is as of 2018. The balance of this area is undeveloped and wooded. It is immediately adjacent to the Consolidated Edison, New York property, area electric transmission substation. This parcel is not part of the NRC licensed site. And then parcel D is the property that they believed in 2018 was needed for the decommissioning of Indian Point 1, 2, and 3 and the expansion of the existing spent fuel storage area. So that's the description of the 4 parcels or the 4 portions of the property in the DL English report. So I don't have any specific information regarding parcels D2 and D3, but they seem to be extra pieces that are part of parcel D. So I guess the discussion is which portions of this property should we be looking at in the near term in terms of master planning for them and preparing new zoning for them.
Parcel C, that's like behind the school, and also it's adjacent to the cemetery. Like, does that end piece go up to the cemetery?
Flags behind it.
Yes,
Behind?
Yes, it's behind the cemetery.
Okay.
Alongside and behind.
You can't see the houses below that. I actually did a GIS mapping. A lot of those houses property actually go from Westchester Avenue all the way up to that parcel.
Wow. Okay.
The cemetery is that lot between the parcel A and that thin strip of parcel C.
Yes.
Okay, so.
Parcel B seems a little bit bigger than what I remembered it because Tropiano Trail runs through parcel B. So sure that property.
Tropiano Trail ends. Marcus, can you put a pointer on that map? Who brought that up, Marcus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you Tropiano Trail, the village park boundary ends before you get out to the. Can you bring your pointer to the point of
This
that
one?
property out in the Hudson? No, out the parcel B. Okay, yes, that point. Tropiano Trail ends right around there where Marcus's pointer is. We do not even extend out to that next point, which is facing the Hudson, the westward in the Hudson. If you take it up to the next point, Marcus, that point, if you had a close up of this, look on Google Earth, I think is actually, I'm not sure if it's that point or the one at the corner of the property to the left, Marcus, which is actually Indian Point. But the village property does not even go all the way out to that.
I actually have a map on that. Give me 1 second.
I realize that, but that drawing shows the Entergy property going all the way to the water. So we have to own some part of that land in order to put a trail in there.
Oh, yes, you're right there.
That map is correct.
Our park boundary, if you took a point somewhere around the infield of the ball field you see there and took a straight line out to that first point that Marcus had his indicator on, it's a very thin strip along the water.
Absolutely.
That's true.
But that's not what the drawing shows right now.
No, that's right.
Okay.
Parcel B here is
map again.
parcel B.
I'm going to bring up a GIS mapping so we can actually look at that closer. Give me 1 minute.
Okay. And by the way, on Google Earth, there's an app to determine land area, and I traced out the complete boundary of that wooded parcel from Lens Cove Park to Westchester Avenue to the river and right up to the fence where the nuclear portion of the plant is. And the actual wooded parcel is about 65 acres, not the 50 or so that they claim, because their parcel B includes that rather large buffer. So I don't know what buffer would be needed in the future, but the complete wooded parcel is about 65 acres. Yeah, it's funny, Sean, they are right onto the village property, and yet the Entergy property cuts right through the ball fields.
Mm-hmm.
So they sort of took some land and left some land for us.
Yeah. But Entergy over the years has allowed the village to use that. So that was,
Yes,
they could have cut that in half before.
that doesn't
ball field.
make it legally ours.
No. No, it doesn't.
So let me go in here. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
So,
so
this is the Village of Buchanan property.
yeah, so scroll sort of out towards the Hudson. You see, we end before that furthest point.
So as you can see, the line, I mean, this is the closest you can get. It's right about second base, and then it jots across, and then up the water line.
Yeah, so we really have just a sliver of village property. Well, we're going to discuss more in a little while too.
And this is from the county tax mapping.
That's correct.
All right.
Okay, do you want to bring your map back up or stay here, whatever you like?
I think eventually we're going to need to go back to that DL English map.
Yep, no problem. Okay. Can you see it?
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Not the DL.
You still have the county tax map up.
Interesting. Okay, hold on a second. So let me stop sharing and do it again. It's funny, it was on my screen. How about now?
Yes, that's
There
good.
you go.
There we go. Perfect.
Good, okay.
In the upper left-hand corner, there's a little rectangular parcel that goes out to the water that is also part of the Indian Point property. If you can use your cursor and show that.
Yeah. This is from the DL English report, this map?
Yes, that we doctored it a little bit to show those portions of parcel D.
Yeah. Well, so David, you were indicating last time that, we had been talking about rezoning parcel B, basically, that we should probably look at how we want to treat the whole thing.
The entire Indian Point property, do you mean?
Yes.
Well, I think we also talked about the fact that at least parcel or portion D1 is not going to be available for a very long time.
Right.
And we talked about looking at less than the entire piece to sort of prioritize how we should be looking at things.
Yeah.
We could look at the entire property, but the purpose of this map was to determine whether we should look at some subset of the entire property.
Well, now we haven't seen, the decommissioning report won't come now with the transfer coming up shortly. Have we seen it? Do we have any guarantee about what parcels they're going to decide they need for the decommissioning? Probably D.
That was
D3, and probably not B, and probably not C. I don't know about A.
Well, according to the DL English report, they need parcel D, and parcels A, B, and C might become available sooner.
Yeah. So,
so we should look at A, B, and C, I believe. And the question is whether we look at D2 and D3 as well, I think.
I don't know. Well, I'll have a conversation. They should be closing, I guess, next month. Let's have a conversation with what their thoughts are on if they're going to need those for the decommissioning.
It sounds like a good idea.
yeah, I mean, to me, the most important thing is the parcel B. It's like, virgin territory and offers the most promise to the village. Whereas the other properties, A and D3, sort of, to me, they sort of shape up as more likely to go commercial, whereas there's a lot of more potential in the parcel B. Whether we try to rezone everything, it's quite a bit to grasp when you look at all the parcels. I don't want to get so bogged down into things that we can't figure out right now that it takes us forever to come up with a plan for B.
I think the
proposal
process,
for
Nick,
bid.
I think the process, Nick, is that we started out looking at or deciding to look at B. And then on the other hand, recently there's been talk about a new comprehensive plan or comprehensive plan update for the entire village. So on one extreme we have B and on the other extreme we have the entire village. So now we're looking at some subset of that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and the local waterfront revitalization plan, which is sort of a smaller specific master plan, you might say, it addresses the waterfront and parcel B more than the, the other properties. I don't think there's any real specifics or suggestions, but
If I'm not mistaken, Nick, the Waterfront Revitalization Committee, or during that discussion last month or 2 months ago, they recommended that the village come up with a master plan for that area. So
B, right?
That's correct. That was one of the recommendations.
Yeah.
And so, the Waterfront Revitalization Plan did not talk about what to use it for. It said that we should come up with a plan on what we use it for. So, we could put together whatever you want and then put out a request for quote, put out an RFQ to a developer, put together a 99-year lease or something. In the village of Buchanan, we've had a history since the mid 80s of not being able to develop or to improve Lens Cove. In 1984, 85, there was a $360,000 grant or $630,000 grant that went unused. Then we had some estuary grant money that went unused. We had all these different plans and nothing ever came to fruition. We've never been able to come to a cohesive idea of putting something together, for one reason or another. I think it's time to let professionals take care of it. We should come up with an idea of what we want. We should put together a request for proposal and send it out to developers. I'm sure they would love to have something down there. We could set the parameters. There are a bunch of steep slopes there. Although it is virgin territory, there's probably a reason for it to be virgin territory. Part of that used to be our dump. Part of that is put under a DEC consent order. So, there's a lot of issues. So I think we should just put together an RFP and let somebody give us some ideas.
Yeah, I definitely, I like that. I think that makes sense. Now, I don't know, like how you put out a request for proposals when the property is still in the hands of Holtec. So, I mean, when Holtec, do we wait until Holtec announces that they're willing to divide that parcel off? How do we handle this in terms of timing and?
See, that's the thing. This is really putting the horse. This whole thing is putting the horse before the cart.
It is somewhat.
Come to us and ask for zoning.
It is.
You
know what? You're right there, but I think we need to do it because we want to sort of establish a framework of what we'd like to see, some guidelines of what we'd like to see before people come to us with wacky ideas and things that we don't want to see. So I think it's sort of setting a tone and indicating where we'd like to go with it. And I think that's an important thing to get down on paper. You're right; it is putting the cart before the horse, but I think we need to do it.
May I suggest something? Would the village board be willing to incorporate the village property with parcel C as a redevelopment of everything? And then, as Sean said, part of that does happen is what the village wants to get out of that development. Waterfront property, a open amphitheater in the waterfront, a marina. I mean, David can address that, but that's exactly what happened in Terrytown and Sleepy Hollow. So they combined municipal property with private property, and they developed everything under one developer. So just something to throw out there.
What municipal property are you going to combine?
The Lens Cove property, the village property on Lens Cove.
Marcus, we're going to have a discussion yet on the Lens Cove property, your findings yet too.
Yes. But since it's village property, the idea would be as part of water that gives the developer waterfront access to put a walking trail in or any other uses that the village board would like to see. So I don't want to recreate the wheel, but if you look at the development in Terrytown and Sleepy Hollow and what they've done down there, David has more experience about that than I do, but you can see what you might be able to get out of, providing some of that land that you have down there. So just an idea to throw out there.
Right. Well, I think that's a key thing to me. One of the key things for this parcel B is that there's open space preservation. If you have 50 or 60 acres there, you should be able to do a nice development of some sort and still have public access and open space.
You could do clustering. Just cluster the development away from the waterfront and have public access to the waterfront. So that's something definitely you can do.
When you say to combine it with the village property, we don't want to develop it to say, well, the ball field would be a perfect place for a casino. I mean, so when you say combine it, to me, it has to be the total plan has to include we want some tax rateable in there, but we also want open space. This is,
yes. Yes.
And then most likely you're going to have to do some buffering with the asphyxie pad, but that's something discussed. But, this is good. We're talking about what would you like to see there, so, and I think maybe we need to put that out to the residents. What would you like to see over there? What type of development? And I think mixed use is the way to go. I think we've all discussed about staying away from industrial. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe certain parcels, maybe once it gets cleaned up, the D1 area, eventually maybe there, I don't know, but, I could see possibly some residential towards the edge of the water. And yes, I know the topo is rough. Well, I've walked it several times. So I know what the topo and the lay of the land is out there. So, but, those are some possibilities, maybe some commercial in there. Those are just some of my thoughts. Somebody had said something that from Kingston, or is it Poughkeepsie, to the city, there's no convention centers. So somebody had just thrown that out too. So it's kind of like we need to understand what we want to see and what, if there's open space or there's this or that, before we go much further. So what is it that the village would like to see there?
You could always do a survey.
Or what do they call it? It's a French word.
Charrettes.
Charrette. Could do that too. Yep.
No, we can do a survey, but the fact is, if you could look at the surveys from the LWRP, because a lot of people already were asked what they'd like to see there. That's a good starting point.
Yep. Correct.
But we didn't have a lot of participation from the village residents on that, though, Nick.
Oh, there were a fair amount of survey replies.
Yes.
Less so on the public hearing, but there were a fair number of replies to the survey.
All right. I think we need a bigger swath, though.
So we could certainly look at it. You could do another survey if you like.
Sure.
Okay.
I think, that Sean's point is well taken. We do need to work with professionals on this. And I think that, you all had the proposal I put out there. Mm-hmm. Well, come on, folks, tear it apart. Either say, wow, I really like that idea, or that idea is really ridiculous. Let's start chopping away at it. Take the good stuff out of here. All it was for what I proposed, some things are just thoughts. And, that's a starting point to kind of say, well, yeah, I like that idea, but I don't like this idea. So, we really need everybody to chip in, and we're going to need the professional planning participation. What do you think, David? What do you think should go in there?
Oh, I haven't really studied it. I've read yours, Nick. I think there's a lot of good stuff in there, but I mean, the purpose of doing some master planning would be to just study it and determine what the highest and best and other appropriate uses are. So mixed use is good. I think residential is good. I think everything that's been talked about tonight is good. So.
All right.
So what's the next step? How would you like to proceed?
I really would like to table this for a couple of months. We have large agendas. We're only halfway through a workshop meeting. It's 10:15. There's really no sense of immediacy to determine the zoning parcels right now. I tell
We
you.
can continue to talk about it. Maybe new ideas will come up. There's a lot on the agenda because there's a lot we need to cover. There's a lot to do.
I understand.
Yeah,
I'd like to,
Sure.
I'd like to focus on the immediate things now.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And, this would be great for like a July meeting when things are a little lax,
Oh, you think things are going to get lax, huh?
Oh,
Never know.
okay.
Good luck.
Okay.
All you can do is hope, Nick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Plan for the worst, hope for the
Listen,
best.
I think Sean's point is good. We're not going to resolve this tonight. We're not going to come up with all the answers, but let's let everybody should really, be thinking about this and to have a next step in mind would be a good idea, I think.
Well,
Without
let's do
trying to
the
resolve,
survey.
we're not going to try and resolve it all tonight, but
No,
we should have
of
an
course
idea
not.
what would the
This is
next
just
step be.
beginning. And you know what? We have one time to get this right. So it's not going to happen in 1 month. It's not going to happen in 2 months, but at least we've started the conversation. And I think the survey is a good thing to have, send something out. See, you never know.
Mayor Eileen raised her hand. You want to have her?
Yeah, if you want to. Yeah. Hi, Eileen.
Okay, Eileen, you're on.
Okay, thank you. I don't want to be the person that puts a damper on this, but with this present administration, you have the potential of them taking over what they want you to put where. Now, that may sound far out, but as we have seen what this present federal administration has done in 100 days, their agenda on the manifesto was zoning, HUD, affordable housing, and what they can do is disband your zoning board. So I'm just throwing that in as something that we all have to keep in mind. So you may all have great ideas and they may all be for naught down the line. So just a word of caution. So
Thank you, Eileen. Yeah, times are changing.
Just one other thing, David, you didn't highlight where the pipelines are. I know everybody could see where parcel A and C, where the pipeline transects, but there's also 2 pipelines that transect D1 and D2, and they come out on Albany Post Road. So before anybody talks about doing any building, Spectra Energy is the one that has to engineer any development near their pipelines. So that one little rectangle parcel you showed on the southern part, that's where the pipeline comes out of the water, and those are the valves that operate that section of pipeline. So then it comes up and it runs diagonal across the entire site. So you should highlight that because you're not allowed any development, I think, 50 feet each way. So it's 100 feet from each pipeline. And there's not just 2 pipelines, there's actually 3 pipelines.
That's good to know. That's good to know, Sean. Thank you.
Okay. And when Spectra or Algonquin came and testified before us, they said they would offer free engineering services to any municipality that wished to develop around that. And my question back to them was, how many developed around that? They said none, but we still offered the service. So you might want to contact them before any future planning outside of Area D, because like I said, A and C is cut in half, and D1 and D3 are cut in half also. D2 is not.
Very good. Good to know.
Okay?
Yep.
Pipelines.
Yeah, you know what? I think that while we ain't going to resolve this tonight and we could table it for a month or 2, I think we really need to come up with that plan for the wooded parcel B, and even if it means looking at the other parcels afterwards, because there's a big difference in the nature of those properties, and I think it's to our advantage to have something resolved where the village says, this is what we're rezoning this to mixed residential, mixed zone, and this is what we'd like to see there. I think the sooner we establish that what it is, it doesn't have, and I don't think we have I don't know how specific we have to get. I think we need to just sort of list things that are acceptable to us, and thereby exclude other things. I think it ain't getting resolved tonight, but I think time is a factor here to me.
Well, we'll continue the discussion as we go on.
And I will point out that the proposal I put out to start the discussion was 1 year and 4 months ago.
Hey,
So that's about the pace. That's the pace we're going.
Well, Nick, more information has come to light too. There's been conversations about releasing the property. So going back to 2 years ago.
I understand.
Things
but
are
it's
changing. Things are developing.
I'm just saying, what I'm saying is
we've been talking about it.
Time flies.
Yes, it does. Yes.
And I don't want to be another year out and still have not advanced this along.
Yes, absolutely. So, every workshop, if you want to bring up something, so we can keep it moving. Any other information, whatever.
Well, no, I just right now, like what Marcus said, what's the next move?
Mm-hmm.
Do we just table it completely? Are there any large scale developers that might offer ideas?
Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of them.
I don't know. The developers around here usually, I don't know if they handle things on that scale. I don't know who you go to for things like that. But David, Marcus, any suggestions?
In terms of developers, do you mean, or just in general?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what the next move is, do we just completely table this?
Just to add a comment or two, I think that you want to be somewhat proactive. I don't think you want to just be reactive. I think having some basic parameters that have to be there, access to the waterfront for the public, et cetera, having some basic parameters that are essential to you is important.
And can I just add to that? I've gotten in the last couple of months 2 different calls from land use attorneys who are, urging that we allow battery storage facilities, manufacturing facilities.
Well, there you go.
In my view, I agree that you set the tone now, rather than allowing somebody who has what's already a permitted use come in and talk, because they're wanting to talk to you guys for, some time now. And I just keep saying, I'll get back to you, and hoping that you would set the tone here a little bit, at least on what portion of the property and what you'd like to see. So just to add to that.
To go back to what you said, Nick, I mean, we talked about this a year and a half ago. And I said to you a year and a half ago, we talked about especially that parcel of land that you're talking about. I agree with you 100%. I would be all for changing that right away to mixed use.
Yeah.
Give an indication to any developers what we're feeling as a community, and it would be a starting point. And I think it is the most likely for Holtec to want to get rid of that piece of property.
Yeah.
If they could. So why not? Let's rezone it right away. What are we waiting for?
I'll drink to that as soon as this meeting is over. Well, listen, let's start by tearing apart my outline. Next workshop, things that in here that things you'd like to add to this, things you'd like to take out of this. I mean, just let's use that as a starting point. I don't know what kind of what.
Do you have that online, Dick? Do you have that online? Could you send it to me?
I re-emailed it today.
Okay.
Oh, was it yesterday?
Yes,
I sent it to you, Sean, didn't I?
Yes, you did. I read it yesterday.
We'll have a further discussion.
Yesterday. So there was an email from me yesterday afternoon, and I reattached it.
So continue discussion. Do you want David to provide a proposal to rezone just that wooded area?
That might be premature at this point.
Okay.
Well, they want to wait for our discussion, right?
Yeah, I think that if you have ideas that you want to put forward, I think that doing a study at this point might be the wrong thing. It'd be nice to hear what you have in the way of ideas first. Maybe do a survey, find out what the public wants,
Why don't I, before the next workshop, I'll dig up the comments from
Yes.
that portion of the LWRP survey.
Yep.
And I'll see if I can find, I guess they should be on the LWRP website. I'll get there were, I think, about 40 or 50 people made comments on the Buchanan section, in the survey. Not a lot of participation in the public hearing, but in the survey, there were a lot of responses. Let's pull that up because that's going to give an idea right off the bat.
Okay, we'll discuss it in the next workshop.
The discussion. So next workshop, Marcus, please have that on there.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on to discussion of proposal.
Thank you, David. Have a good night.
Oh,
Good night, all.
I'm
Take
sorry.
care.
Thank you,
I
David.
apologize.
Yep,
Thank
so
you.
long.
Good night.
Discussion of proposed local law amending chapter 195 water.
So just to let the board know, this has been going on for a couple months now. Doing review of a water leak that we had, we realized we had some issues that we did not abide or we did not comply with the village law or equal the village law. So George Palmer provided some recommendation changes, which I provided to the board. Again, it's just for you guys' discussion. The public hearing is scheduled for the next meeting. So again, if you guys have any comments for George, it would be good to have it before the public hearing so we can try to address it. We do not have to address that tonight because George is not here tonight. So please, if you email each other, any question, and George Palmer, myself, and Stephanie, then we can have some responses for the next meeting. And then we can open the public hearing for the public as well at the next meeting.
All right.
Okay.
Discussion regarding a bid award to install an insertion valve.
Again, this is something going back to the leak we had. It's just to let the board know that we will have a recommendation. We actually did open up the bids on last Thursday. We received, I think, 3 bids, I believe, 3 bids. And we'll have a recommendation for the next meeting. Gave you an idea who the possible low bidder is. And then we'll have that recommendation to you for you guys to consider at the next meeting.
Okay, yeah, it's here. It's on here, Marcus.
Yes.
The explanation. You had John Pizzella Brothers.
Yep, he was a low bidder, yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, discussion of workshop minutes. Okay, here goes the discussion. So does the board want to continue to have the workshop minutes done? There's no official requirement to do that. So it's up to what the board feels comfortable with. This was just a question that came out. So let's have a discussion if people would still like to have the workshop minutes to review, or.
Aren't they on YouTube? No?
Every meeting is on YouTube, yes.
So
Meeting is, but the minutes itself, Rich, the minutes itself.
Doesn't the open meetings law say that any meeting of a quorum of a public body that minutes shall be taken?
Only if action is taken.
Yeah.
Only if action is taken. So we could have minutes only if, like tonight, we had a special meeting. So for example, this workshop right now, there's no decision. So normally there would be no minutes of this meeting, of this section of the meeting. The original part of the meeting would have a special meeting. There was actual action taken. Those will have minutes.
But anybody can read, all they gotta do is go to YouTube and you
And you can watch the whole meeting, correct?
Yeah, so I don't see it's redundant.
Yeah, or you can keep it just basic, like discussion of workshop minutes, discussion of sale and use of cannabis, and just like have a couple of lines. So, you can keep it simple too. You don't have to have verbatim. I think that's what the thing is. Do you want a verbatim or just like to highlight what?
I don't think verbatim is needed, no.
No, yeah.
No, I agree that I don't believe any minutes should actually be verbatim unless they're going to be subject to a lawsuit where you have to number each line. But I've always felt more comfortable with being able to easily retrieve a synopsis of a meeting. It's also easier to take notes.
Since I've been doing the minutes, I haven't been doing verbatim. And it just seems redundant because we talk about the same thing at the workshop and I type it up and then I type up the same thing at the board meeting. So it just seemed redundant to me.
Just think of somebody, a member of the public, trying to go through like tonight's meeting. It's easier to skim through a few pages than to sit down for 4 hours and find out what happened at 11 o'clock, So it's especially if if you can keep headering the minutes by subject, somebody can go right to the subject instead of watching YouTube or Facebook for 2 or 3 hours. I think it's a valuable asset, not only for the public, but, I've always liked having the minutes because I could take notes on them and discuss them and be able to easily reference them, instead of, having to go through, like I said, hours and hours of video. I agree they don't have to be verbatim, but I think that a synopsis of the discussions should be recorded on paper.
Okay. What's the rest?
I like the idea of having the. I don't have the best memory in the world. Sometimes I want to go back to the videos and refresh my memory of what somebody said, even what I said, or if there was a presentation. So I find that very useful. And with the video, you can use your cursor and scroll right through. You don't have to watch the whole thing.
Right.
And it's, for me, if I want to find a point on the video, it's a whole lot easier than going through verbatim minutes. I would agree we don't need verbatim minutes, but I definitely like having access to the meeting in the video form online.
Oh, absolutely. But like I said, if we know where in the meeting something took place, you can scroll right to it, and then you can get the verbatim of what actually happened. The other day I sat there for an hour and 40 minutes looking for 2 sentences because I didn't have the minutes. I had to watch the whole meeting, and that's a tough use of time. You know what I mean? That's kind of a discouragement to the public to see what actually took place. Somebody's not going to want to sit there for 3 hours to find out that, hey, we're talking about minutes right now. What'd they say?
Yeah.
All right,
Also,
the
videos
workshop
are also
synopsis type thing. It doesn't have to be verbatim. So just, so the subject, discussion of sale and use of cannabis within the Village of Buchanan, and, a synopsis.
And the way Cindy put out those last set of minutes, I think you sent out like an example of how you want to do them. It was like 4 pages or something.
Right, but those were the last minutes that I want you to approve.
Yeah, that was short. That wasn't verbatim. It was only.
It wasn't verbatim, no.
Yeah, so I think that captured the feelings of the board members and what people were saying. And there again, if somebody wanted to watch it and find out what the verbatim is, they can skim through 3 or 4 pages and go right to it on the video in the area.
Just a question that Cindy had. She just wanted direction from the board.
I know a long time ago we did not do workshop minutes at all, period.
Well, and that was up to different administrations.
Right.
Some people didn't have workshops either.
Mm-hmm.
The videos I find very handy also is when we had live meetings, in-person meetings, I could look back and see what I wore and not wear the same shirt and tie to every meeting.
Okay, that's important too.
It was very useful.
But prior to COVID, we did not film the workshop meetings.
And that's the thing. When we get in public, when we go back, we don't have to film workshop meetings. And I've always felt that forcing people to be on TV is also discouragement. Some people don't want to see themselves on television. That's why when I started the workshop meetings back up in 2010, we decided not to televise it, just so that we could have people come up and just discuss things without having to worry about being criticized for having the wrong hair or not matching. You know what I mean?
I know. I always worry about that.
Yeah. So COVID, the whole pandemic changed the world, and the world will go back to normal eventually, whatever normal is at this point. Okay. So we've had that discussion of sale and use of cannabis within the village. Oh my God. So I just wanted you guys to just understand what's going on. The city of Peekskill was interested in potentially one of the places. They're back and forth with this whole thing. I mean, this doesn't have to be resolved until the end of the year. But they're back and forth. They might have a potential spot close to our Lens Cove Park. So, we need to start the conversation. Our police chief has said that, maybe we'll do no smoking in all the village parks. Yeah. So this is a whole big discussion that we're going to have, but I just kind of want you to get your head wrapped around this, what's happening with this. And, we'll need to work on this. So everyone needs to decide if this is something they think is in the village's best interest. I personally don't think so, but that's my personal opinion.
Is that going to be on the next meeting, or is that just the topic?
Yeah, let's put that on the next workshop. You know, so because we have to have this wrapped up by the end of the year, and the time goes by fast.
Okay.
Yeah, and timing, if I can just interrupt real quick, timing is going to be important here because anything you do other than what's under the law now. So if you wanted to prohibit, smoking, both cigarettes and marijuana in, public parks, you would, any of that's going to be subject to a permissive referendum. And the timing on that's pretty important. If you do it too early, you're going to have to do a special election. And so the best time to do that, because we have March elections, would be at the end of December. It allows 30 days for a petition to be signed for people that say, hey, we want to vote, right? Put it on the ballot. And you get it on and not spend the extra funds, I guess, on a special election. And I can send you a memo on that. I also sent you the slides from the NICOM presentation that they gave.
Yep.
And some of them are really good on this particular issue and what you can and cannot do. Because the public health law already prevents smoking and vaping in like bars, restaurants, whatever. But you, as a village board, could decide to not only not allow the sale if that's what you decide to do, but also to prohibit smoking in, village-owned property, parks, parking lots, wherever you own. But just watch your timing on it. You don't want to do it too early, in my opinion, because I don't think it's going to be a huge problem real quickly. And you want to do it probably at a general election. So anyway, just my thoughts.
And just to add, Stephanie makes a good point because the village board does have the option too, besides opting out.
Yep.
But also you can actually have a permissive referendum, or the village board can put it on the ballot automatically without a permissive referendum. So the board will have to make that determination as well, how you want to proceed.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, we just wanted to just mention this evening, and we'll get more into it the next workshop.
Yep.
Hey, Marcus, discussion on Lentz Cove. Tell us what you have found.
Yes, I found some interesting information. So I'm going to share my screen here.
Okay.
That's that one. Hold on. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Did you take this print from the tax maps, the county tax maps?
Yes.
All right, because the tax maps don't always match the property maps.
I agree. But it's a similar situation because when I was signing some bills, the village pays the city of Peekskill for county refuse tax and county sewer tax for this parcel that's highlighted in yellow. Can everybody see this?
Yeah.
So supposedly, and that's why I'm bringing up to the board, is even though this property belongs to the village of Buchanan, this wavy line area, which half the parking lot of the village, that's on Lentz Cove, supposedly is within the city of Peekskill, which means is if the village is supposed to do anything along the water line in this area, you need permission from the city of Peekskill. It was interesting.
It says Village of Buchanan right on that map. I don't get that.
Yeah, I know, but because it is in Buchanan, but it belongs to the city of Peekskill. So we have a conflict of this property, and we also have another piece of property. If you can see this one, is another piece which is land underwater that's supposedly in Peekskill as well. So I'm bringing up to the village board's attention. I don't know if you knew about this or not, but I think this is a discussion we need to have with Peekskill. If the village board would like to have the discussion with Peekskill to agree to annex this property into the village, the city council of the city will have to agree to that, or else if it stays like this, then any potential use of this land will have to get city of Peekskill permission or approval.
Can I ask you something?
Title search, before we get all crazy here.
Yeah, we could do we do a title search. We could do a new survey. I was talking to the town assessor, who used to be the city assessor. He's going to go to the property records to see what he has. But all I want to let you know is that we have been paying county tax on the city bill for many, many years. So there is property within the city that we're paying within the village that we're paying city taxes on.
So let me ask a question. The black dotted line is the boundary of the village,
Correct.
correct?
Correct.
This yellow outline property is allegedly part of Peekskill.
Correct.
That's a conflict right off the bat.
I agree.
It seems to me that that Peekskill owns that property and they should be paying, and it's in Buchanan, so they should be paying tax to us. Why are we paying taxes to them?
That's the conflict. The conflict is, I agree with you. The black line,
Nothing makes sense about this at all.
It doesn't make sense to me at all either. But those are two parcels that I just showed you that are supposedly in the city of Peekskill. So I just want to say, since we were talking previously about rezoning this property, if this is city of Peekskill, we cannot rezone this property because within
We're
the
not
city of
talking about
Peekskill.
rezoning this property. We're talking about rezoning the Entergy property.
Okay, yeah,
The
but
separate property.
right. But if you want to do anything within this area, you will need city of Peekskill approval.
All
Well,
right,
every
I think
time-
we need to know for sure what this is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, so if the village board
Yeah.
if the village board is willing to do this, I can get we can do a survey and a title search. I can get some proposals and let the board know so we can try to clarify this.
This is ridiculous. We need to get it sorted out on paper.
Yes. Sean?
Anthony, another thing we have to clean up.
How was this discovered, Marcus?
I saw a city of Peekskill tax. It was only $195. So I saw the tax bill. I said, why are we paying city of Peekskill taxes? Which is really just we're not paying city taxes. It's on the city bill. It's the county refuse tax and the county sewer tax. So nobody is exempt for that. So I looked up, I Googled the map and then I saw this. And what the hell is this? And that's why I wanted to bring it to your attention.
Because on a yearly basis, the city of Peekskill had applied to us to use our boat launch during the Peekskill fireworks. They got the permits and they filed permits through us to use this exact area. So, I'm sure that they're not aware of it. And
That's correct, Sean. And that's what I was thinking, that if it's true that this is in the city of Peekskill, the city has never used it. The city assumes it's always village. My hopes are that legally we could just annex this property back into the village and remove this conflict.
And if you go to the GIS mapping site for Buchanan and click on that parcel, it shows that the parcel goes right to that black line, and it doesn't show any of this.
Correct. And if you look at that map a little closer, Nick, you'll see this another line that matches this line on the Village of Buchanan map. Do you see that? I don't know. You're in it now. You can see the same line.
No, I'm not. I can get there quickly, but I'll look at it later.
Yeah, you can look at it later.
The one in the water?
Both. You'll see another line right over matching this map. You'll see it on the Village of Buchanan GIS mapping as well.
yeah,
Okay, I
they're
think we
using
need to do some research before we open up the Pandora box.
Agreed.
All right, so what I'll do is we'll try to get a survey and a title search. Tom Watkins is still working on trying to get some deeds, and then we'll go from there.
All right, perfect.
Yeah,
All right, so I just want to let you know about it. That's all.
There never was a road that went through there. That entire place was Fleischman's. So the road used to stop at the circle part right by where our entrance is, where our park is, and the rest of it was woods, and there was buildings there that burned down in the mid 70s, late 70s. And that's when the rest of those buildings were demolished and the road went through. So it kind of made the property lines a little iffy. So probably nobody ever questioned it before when there was no road. There was no access. So you had a physical barrier between Buchanan and Peekskill.
Yep, and that's why I thought it was fine. But then when we were paying that tax bill, I said that there's something wrong here. So that's why I wanted to get to the bottom of it.
Good catch, Marcus. That's good. We need to know these things before we invest over there.
Listen, I think we should just redraw our map and we should just take over part of Peekskill.
Yeah, it's a good idea, Nick.
Let's take over Finn and Brew.
All right, moving on. New service allowing credit card and e-check processing. Cindy, how would you like to explain this to us?
Okay, so Marcus and I have been looking for programs so that the residents can pay their taxes online. Trust, which is our bank, actually has a very good user-friendly program that we think will work really well for our residents. And it's as simple as going into our website, clicking on their link and putting in, the routing number, account number. The amount will be there. You can't pay any more. You can't pay any less. You can use it 24 hours a day, whatever. The cost to the resident will be $1.85 per transaction.
Oh,
If you use a credit card, it's 3.5%, which is just like if you use the credit card here in the office, 3.5%. You could still pay by check, come to the window, pay by money order. You can still use that. You don't have to use this, but it would be an option because I know a lot of people have asked for it over the years.
No, this is great. That's how I pay.
Right. No, it is great. Yes. Yep. And
Very easy.
right. And a lot of people always look for their tax bill later on in federal tax time so they can go back into the system and pull up the bill, get it themselves. And if it works well, we will also open it up for water billing.
Right. I think this is convenient, Cindy, because, it could be Saturday and people, let me go pay my water bill. Let me go, well, not water, but tax bill.
Right. Right. No, it's good and it's easy. So
Okay. Village board.
Definite plus.
Yeah. So the village board would like that?
Yeah, as long as when we send out the text forms, we tell them that and we tell them what the fees are.
Oh, yeah.
I hate that they say, why'd you charge me 3% more,
Right.
So as long as it's easily delineated on any of the forms, I don't see it would be a problem.
Yeah.
Well,
We'll
when
put
they
an
pay
insert.
online, the fee automatically comes up the dollar. And I think the city of Peekskill is the same $1.85, if I'm not mistaken. I'll know this.
I think
this
so.
week.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you, Cindy.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, I just want to say that Cindy did a lot of research on that and met with a whole bunch of companies. This has been going on for a long time. And the bank actually works very well with Cindy, and they came back with this recommendation. And I think the pricing is very good. So it's a long time in the coming, and Cindy's been doing a lot of research. Hold on. Eileen has her hand up. Eileen, you're still on. You can just unmute yourself.
Eileen, you're still awake.
Oh, yeah, I don't go to bed till 1 or 2. So this is right up my alley. How come the town of Cortland doesn't have a fee when you pay through your checking routing and checking account number for your taxes?
Because the town is paying that fee.
Oh, okay. All right, just wondered.
Of course, no problem. Anytime.
Thank you.
Okay, so the May 4th meeting, we have things listed, the continuation of the public hearing for overlay district. It's all here regarding local law amending chapter 195. The motion for the fee schedule for the building fees, the insertion valve. You see everything's here. That's so far we have on the agenda.
We got a couple other things added on. We're going to talk about the baseball use, and we'll add that on the agenda as well.
Please, yes.
There's a couple of things missing though.
Yes.
There's no resolution for the overlay after the public hearing.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, if you guys vote on it, I see what you're saying. Yes.
So you have to have the resolution on there. And also, since we're gonna change the way the billing is, shouldn't we have a resolution to authorize that, or is that just an office policy?
I'm sorry, repeat that again, Sean?
For collecting the fees that allow the credit cards and the e-checks, do we need a resolution to authorize that type of payment, or is that just an office issue?
Yeah, that's just another form of payment. So I don't think you need. If you guys want a resolution to do that, that's fine.
Well,
I might put it out there.
Put it out. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that way the public has more information about it. We'll put a motion for that too.
That's not going to require the expenditure of any fees on our part for registering it, or doesn't require any programs to be purchased or nothing.
It might. KVS already has a program out there, and the bank is not charging us anything.
Right. Okay.
Good.
But it's good. I think Stephanie was right. I think they that way the public has another chance to listen to it.
Okay. Good. Perfect. Okay. I have a few things, but does anybody have anything? Sean, do you have anything else?
Nope, that sounds like everything.
Okay.
I have a couple of things. The village logo redesign contest. Marcus, or Cindy, has the newsletter gone out yet?
It's folded.
Sorry. No, it should go out tomorrow, hopefully.
I'm sure I should have asked about this a week ago, but
It's in there.
It's in there.
You
It's
left
in
that
there.
again?
It's
Oh,
in,
okay.
not the whole flyer, but just a reminder.
Okay, and did you correct the website? It's correct
Yes.
on, you
Yes,
corrected the website?
everywhere
Okay.
it's correct.
Great. Okay, that's good. So I need to, I want to have a prize for this, and I need to work this out with the village board. The winning design, I had wanted to do a $500 prize. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I thought it would be an incentive to get more people to participate in this contest. And I know some of you might find that to be a bit much, so we can change that. But that was my hope. But I need to come up with a number that we can all agree to, so I could advertise that, post it on the website for the redesign contest.
Well, Nick, I think that's governed by law. If I'm not mistaken, nonprofits are not allowed to give a gift greater than $75, and we're a nonprofit. Now, I don't know if government agencies can give away public funds for that purpose, but I know nonprofits aren't allowed to give gifts greater than $75.
Yeah, and I'll confirm that for you.
Okay. But
I think Nick wanted to use some of the money is donated from Entergy, not tax money. Is that correct, Nick?
Well, if the money
yes,
donated to us, it's ours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, good question.
Whatever it takes. I'd be willing to contribute to the prize myself. And I know that Jessica, who is the art teacher who's doing this with me, would contribute something. So, if we can determine that, I'd like to get that posted on the as soon as possible. There's about just under 5 weeks left to this contest, and
How about just leaving a person's name in the lower right-hand corner like they do with portraits?
well, I don't know how
Put a
much
little TM Josephine Barnes or something,
Yeah, except that village seal's so small, it's going to be like the initials for the design of a coin that you have to find buried with a microscope somewhere. No, I think that I'd like to know what we can do, if we can use that money, if there is a limit, and if we are able to use that money. How does the board feel okay with 500? Does the board think it should be less?
I think Nick, really, if somebody wins this contest, it's something a great thing to put on college application, resumes, and everything. I think $500.
If it's a high school kid, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's way too much money.
So you know what you can do? You could say it's a scholarship. Say it's a $500 scholarship that it can only be used for furthering education, and they could do everything that Rich said, or even make it $350 or something. Term it as a scholarship, so that it shows that
as opposed to
do something for furthering education. And if
Except
they don't
that-
use it to go to school, they don't get the money. How's that?
Yeah,
That's not
except
bad.
that it's open to it's open to everybody, not just the high school art class.
Oh, I got you. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, what about a gift certificate? I don't know. Well, Stephanie, you said you could check to see if there's any legal restraint on this. If we can use that money, is the village board okay with 300?
Sure. I'm good with 500, Nick, as long as it's allowed.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll check that.
Okay. All right.
Nice round number.
Okay. Then let me know, Stephanie. I'd appreciate it.
I sure will.
Yeah. One other thing, just a quick update. I've been talking to the person that sells the kayak dock equipment, and got some price quotes. And you know what? I'll send this out to everybody. The basic kayak dock is roughly in the 8,000 range, but I added in support rails and a walkway because we may need a little extra length because there's such a sloping area there at the park that the kayak dock is 13 feet long. We might need to add a walkway because from the high tide to the low tide could be about a 30-foot difference. So it could go up more to, with handicap rails and with some extra anchoring points, with a whole bunch of, and with a walkway, it could be up around 12,000. I met there with Bob Wheeler, and we looked at some of the broken up concrete that's there. There would be a need to remove some of the damaged concrete, rebar sticking out, which would be like dangerous things if we're going to have a kayak launch there. So I don't think that would be very costly, but as Bob and Marcus pointed out, you'd have to just get an okay from the Army Corps of Engineers if you're putting a backhoe in the water or along the shore to pull out, just even to demo that bad concrete. I believe that's the case. So that's just a procedural thing. Marcus, correct me if I'm wrong. That's pretty much a matter of just informing them of what you want to do.
That's correct. George Palmer is looking into that as we speak, and hopefully he'll have an answer soon.
As we speak, he's up now doing that?
No, he was doing it. It was checking as of this afternoon when I left.
Okay, great. So we have to look into that. I'll send you the information I have so far on the kayak dock. You know, some of the options, if the bare bones stuff would be about 8,000, with some of these options like handicap rails and a walkway, we could get up to about 12. I'll send that information to everybody, but I just wanted to update you. Mm-hmm. I'm out of town from the Friday and all of next week, but I will Zoom in for the meeting on Tuesday. So if you need me for anything live and in the flesh, it's got to be the next day or two. You need me to come in, Cindy, for vouchers?
That would be great. We appreciate it. Any
All
of
right,
you? Yep.
I'll come in
Thank you.
Thursday before I go away.
Okay. Good. Thanks.
All right. That's it. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Nick. So I just have a few things. The seniors, I spoke to the senior president today, so did Marcus, Cheryl, and the seniors are ready to come back to upstairs. I guess most of them are vaccinated, so they'd have to be vaccinated to come back to the meeting following CDC regulations. So if none of the board members object, they'd like to start their weekly meetings again on the second floor and keeping socially distant and a mask. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely.
Good.
Long overdue.
Yep, perfect. Thank you. What was the other thing? So I just wanted to mention the pinwheels at the circle. That's something we allow the ladies club to do. Last year it was for mental health. This year it's for child abuse prevention. So we allow them, they'll have the pinwheels up for like another week or so that when the ladies go and do their flower sale, the pinwheels will be out of there. The next thing is there's an event Friday. We're having a thank you to the Entergy employees at Lentz Cove this Friday from 1 to 3:30. And so the board understands the money. There's some banners that were purchased. So any of the money for this event will be coming out of the events line. So I want to clarify this before it gets all distorted and twisted up and I get accused of 100 different things. So this is grant money that I have gotten over the years from Entergy. Every year I put in for grant money for events. So whether it's Buchanan Day, there's some events that I'd like to talk about this year. So the money is not going to come out of taxpayer dollars. It's coming out of that money from there. So just want to put that out there so everybody understands that. Any questions on that at this point?
Nope.
Not right now. Okay, so we will have that from 1 to 3:30, and anybody that can attend would be great. Anybody have anything else? If not,
I just want to, Marcus, when we talk about the fields and the pay for the practice and the games, could you also remind us to talk about the insurance?
Oh, sure, of course.
You remember the insurance company? It was an insurance company recommendation, and some of the people had said that was a little bit onerous. So we could talk about that again.
So let me ask you a question. I'll send everybody an email from the insurance carrier. Would you want him to be in attendance to answer any questions?
No, because that was just a recommendation to better insulate the village. You
Yes.
know, and he gave us mitigating things we could do by, for instance, having them sign waivers and having the permission slips and stuff like that, where we would be equally as insulated without having to go from $25,000 to $2.5 million or something like that. So,
250,000, I think it was, right?
yeah, 250 to $2.5 million, or I forget. And the fee schedule you sent out was from 2017, not 2020 or 21.
Okay,
So, but yeah, just remind us to talk about that.
sure.
That's definitely going to happen.
And I just have one request.
Sure.
I had written an email maybe a week or so ago regarding a sewer agreement and Entergy/Holtec, which I'd like to talk about in executive session next week. If you all could just read it, so you have some sort of idea, reach out to me with any questions, so it's not foreign to you. I heard from Sean already, but nobody else so far.
All right.
Thank you.
I think I responded the next day. I was busy last Thursday and I responded on Friday.
You
Not
did?
a lengthy huh?
You did?
Yeah, I think so.
It was a very short response, though, Nick. It really didn't have a lot of substance in it.
I don't remember
Yeah.
getting it. Sorry.
Yeah,
Oh, look.
I'm a man of few words.
At least typed words, right?
Yeah.
All right. Does anybody have anything else? No? Okay, I'd like to make a motion to close this meeting.
So moved.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, good night, everybody.